wants the millennials, like I said, I think I'm a millennial trapped in a Generation X body. Uh, But hey, born at the wrong time. So we heard a little bit about that, and we heard what they expect from the workplace. Some of it totally unrealistic, of course. But at the end of the day, that's the reality that the industry is going to have to deal with, right? So we have to meet each other somewhere in the middle as we create this workplace of the future. We also had quite a robust debate. Did we not have a robust debate a little bit later about what the workplace is like at the moment, what skills are needed, how we attract younger women into the industry, but also how do we get those women who have left the industry to come back? And my big question was, where do they go? So we learned that they start their own businesses. So we touched a little bit on entrepreneurship, and a lot of that is going to be carried through to the discussions today. So if you missed it, not to worry, we've got fantastic speakers on this morning as well, and I'm looking forward to some of those conversations. And I hope you're going to do exactly what you did yesterday and be part of the conversation and not just be viewers or listeners of a conversation. So let's get this program going then, and it's my great honor to welcome to the stage Anne Bouvereau, who is Director General of the GSMA. We're going to have a bit of a fireside chat, just get her thinking about some of the issues that we've been discussing over the past day, and then Anne is very happy to have you also engaging with her, so it won't be a one-way conversation. She has a proven track record of success in the highly dynamic mobile industries, a deep understanding of the opportunities and the challenges that are facing the mobile industry today. Please welcome Anne Bouvereau. And thank you so much for making the time. You're a very, very busy person, and we're grateful to have you here. And I think let me maybe start with what we are doing here. Why do you think it's important to have an annual gathering of this nature?
I think it is so important. This is something that we started last year, as you said. I've been in this role at the head of the GSMA for 2 years, and it's one of the things I wanted to do when I arrived, to create this opportunity for women in the industry to gather and to talk about what it is to be a woman in this industry and how we can get more women in this industry, because that's really what we need. So I'm really happy to take time in my schedule to be here. This is one of my important events and things I want to do. So delighted to be here this morning and to have this conversation with you and with the audience.
And it's not just, I suppose, about just getting women in. It's about expanding on a lot of the opportunities. One of the things we discussed yesterday was about the ecosystem, talking about education, talking about health. So there are many entryways now into the mobile industry. Are we taking advantage of that?
We should take advantage of that more. I think we are, but definitely when people talk about mobile, they think about, well, something that allows you to make phone calls, or maybe something that allows you to browse the internet. But as you all know here, it's so much more than that. And mobile is really transforming and revolutionizing lots of other industries, services. Mobile health is a revolution in health. Mobile education is a revolution in education. Mobile changes transportation, changes financial services. I mean, there's really many things that are changed by mobile, and there's lots of trends that we're happy to follow and to encourage in this way.
Well, given how innovative and how constantly changing the industry is, this is probably a very unfair question. But what are some of the top trends at the moment? Where do you see things going?
Where do I see things going? Clearly, one of the things I've been quite big on in the past few years and continue to be on is NFC, near-field communications, tapping your phone onto a payment or a reader or something. That's really something that is getting big. ISIS, I know, is about to launch here in the US. But using your phone to board public transportation, a train, a tram, a bus, whatever, getting your phone to buzz when your train is approaching, so you know the train is coming, getting information as to how much money you still have on your monthly commuter pass, but that's the transportation application of NFC. You can buy flowers with your NFC phone. You can have vouchers when you get into a shop and improve your shopping and retail experience. Many things that you can do with NFC. And it's really growing into a global phenomenon. China Mobile has launched in China in typical Chinese trial way. They launched in 14 cities.
Because that's how you trial.
Yeah. And then it's going to get big there with China Union Pay, and China Unicom is following. The Japanese and Koreans have been early adopters and have seen the success of that. The US, ISIS is going to launch very shortly. There's a number of things in Europe. So NFC would be my first one.
And you've got the NFC Mobile Money Summit
yes.
in New York next week, right?
Absolutely. I forgot to say that. Thank you.
I didn't.
And maybe another trend I would talk about, and you referred to that a little bit, is mobile health.
Yeah.
I think mobile health is a very big opportunity, both in developed markets and emerging markets. One of the things we did recently, and I'm quite keen to speak about, is we organized this Mobile Health Grand Tour, which was a biking tour between Brussels and Barcelona. More than 2,000 kilometers of biking, and then up and down as well, so quite a big bike ride between Brussels and Barcelona. But the important thing and the different thing about it is that some of the riders had diabetes. And when you think of people with diabetes, I mean, you know it's a chronic disease, you know that people have to watch their blood sugar levels, they have to get insulin injected to get their blood sugar level balanced. So you don't necessarily think that those are people who are going to be on a 2,000 kilometer ride between Brussels and Barcelona and be able to do that. And so the reason we did that was to draw attention to diabetes and the fact that it's something that people can live with and be healthy if it's done in the right way. Very important prevailing condition. By 2030, we estimate that 1 in 10 people could have diabetes at some point in their life, either type 1 or type 2. So quite big and quite a big strain on health spend in countries. So the way you can use mobile technology to monitor your blood sugar levels and to monitor the injection of insulin and to monitor your reaction to physical exercise, as in this ride, that was the objective of the ride, is something we're working on with professors, with experts in the health sector. So that's just one example of the things you can do in mobile health.
And that speaks then also to the socio-economic impact that the mobile industry can have. I come from the developing world, so a lot of what you were talking about are things and applications that I've seen that people in the mobile industry in Africa and in Asia are starting to develop. Maybe give us some examples of those as well.
I'd be very pleased to do that, because you're absolutely right. Overall, mobile has a big socio-economic impact. A few figures: 2.2% of the global GDP is mobile in the mobile industry. 10 million jobs in the industry in 2017. We'll come back to that. But I think it's particularly important in developing markets. And mobile, we always forget, is this technology that has the furthest reach. So we always talk about 7 billion connections. Now that's just connections, that's SIM cards, and we have multiple devices or multiple SIM cards. But individual users, men and women, 3.3 billion men and women have access to mobile in the world. That makes it the furthest reaching technology. And in particular in countries in Africa, in Southeast Asia, in a number of countries around the world, It has a bigger reach than banks, so financial inclusion is a big one. It has much more reach than all your health facilities, your even energy grids don't reach as far sometimes, but you have the antennas and they're powered, so you can use the antennas to actually be a source of power. Or you can have solar panels, an individual solar panel with a SIM card in it that can be used to provide a leasing model to get access to energy. That's quite popular in Kenya and in a few other countries. And you can use it for mobile health. And you can use it for our Mobile Women initiative that I'm quite keen to say a few words about. Because the other thing is, yes, it reaches 3.3 billion women and men in the world, but more men than women. And there's this mobile phone gender gap in the world, and in particular in developing markets, where something like 20% less women, or 30% in some cases, or even more, less women than men have access to mobile. And so in 2009, and that was before my time, the GSMA decided to launch some research into that, and then to launch an initiative. And that was in 2010, and Hillary Clinton and Sherry Blair co-hosted the launch of that M-Women program, aimed at halving the mobile phone gender gap. Wow. And we have a couple wonderful success stories, and there's one that I'd like to share with you today, which is the AsiaCell story in Iraq. And AsiaCell had about 20% of their customer base who were women. So only 20% of their customers were women. And they launched a dedicated service line called Almas, with simple things. I mean, they didn't like revolutionize the way they were providing mobile services, but having female agents in shops. You're very familiar with that. In developing markets, it's mostly prepaid services, so you have to go and top up your mobile phone. And so imagine you're a woman in Iraq, you go and top up your mobile phone at a shop, and a man is in front of you and asks your mobile phone number. And well, that can be something you might not be completely comfortable with. So having a female agent in front of you, or having a way to do it without giving your mobile number, but by giving some sort of an account number or an alias, was one of the simple things they did. And also they had a specific tariff plan and a buy-by feature by which you could block harassing calls from a particular number. So small things, but in the course of a little bit more than a year, they increased their customer base by 2 million. To about 40% of their customer base now are women. So I think that's a fantastic example.
And often innovation comes from simplicity.
Yes.
Right? So we were talking a lot, we spent a lot of time yesterday talking about skills, addressing this digital skills gap. You know, what are we doing? What are some of the suggestions that you've seen?
Well, and that's a very, very important topic. First of all, I say 10 million jobs in our industry, in our ecosystem by 2017. The very first thing is we foresee there will not easily be enough people, men and women, with the right skills for that. So there's a skills gap. And then on top of that, there's a much smaller percentage of girls and women going to study ICT. So an opportunity to bridge the skills gap is to encourage more girls and women to take on a career in the ICT sector and to study science, technology, maths, the whole STEM area. And we're really, really interested at the GSMA and actors in the industry. I mean, people on our board, mobile operators. I was speaking with Kathy Coughlin of AT&T this morning. Intel have initiatives, Cisco's lots of initiatives. How can we encourage girls to go and study ICT? And I think part of this is through role modeling. There is this, there are a number of studies, we were discussing that at breakfast this morning, that around 7th grade or 12, 13 years old is when girls all of a sudden start to say, well, maybe I'm not going to study science. Maybe it's not for me. I hate maths, or I'm not comfortable with it, when they're perfectly capable. We all know that. But there's a little bit of a, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it because I'm a girl. So being able to show role models of girls and women who are working in the ICT sector, who went through studying technology and math and engineering, and are perfectly normal human beings, like you are and I am, and we're all here, and are able to have a successful and happy life, professional life and personal life, I think goes a long ways in showing that, well, it's perfectly fine to study STEM and ICT, and you should do that because you have very interesting and rewarding and fulfilling jobs in the sector. So that's partly why I also want to have more women speakers at our conferences, at Mobile World Congress, at Mobile Asia Expo. And I know Michael O'Hara spoke a little bit about that yesterday when he opened the event, because I couldn't be here. And he spoke about that very well. We both agree, we all agree at the GSMA, we want more senior women to speak at our events. But it's challenging. So we're really, really pushing, but any ways you all here and online as well can help us to convince these few, of course there's fewer women who we can turn to and ask to speak, but try and convince them that it's very important for them to do it. I think
so we're committed to doing that, right? We're going to go and harass
Yes.
our bosses to go to Congress in Barcelona straight after this conference.
Thank you.
And talking about those who are in the workplace, maybe give us some examples of within the GSMA, how do you create a woman-friendly working environment?
Well, first of all, I'm very pleased, and I found this when I arrived. The GSMA is very evenly composed of men and women. It's about 50-50, the percentage of men and women. It's also very diverse in terms of nationalities, in terms of backgrounds. It's a very, very inclusive environment, and it makes it a very rich environment. You have people from different perspectives, different countries, different genders, so it's a very, very inclusive environment. However, at the GSMA, as in a number of places, the higher up you go in the organization, the less women you have. So I'm really trying to encourage that to change. There's, in terms of the women you're seeing here, Vicky, whom you saw, was here when I joined. She's a very successful senior director at the GSMA, and we're very happy that in addition to her role, she has taken the lead on organizing these events. Hyunmi Young, whom you heard also yesterday, yes, Hyunmi Young, yes, is our Chief Strategy Officer, and she's come to the GSMA a year ago, yes. And so we have now a woman in the senior leadership team, in the officers team. There's a few more that I see here. Una Steen in finance is a wonderful woman as well. Natasha Jackson, I'm sure there's more that I can't really see. But we have a number of senior women. Some were already there, some we've hired since, and I'll continue to do that. And I'm also trying to encourage that discussion with our members. I'm trying to get our board to have a few female board members. Not there yet, but I'll get there. And I'm trying to encourage more women to be visible at Congress and events like that as well.
You've had a really successful career in the telecommunications industry. Are there some? Was there a moment, maybe an event or a moment that you'd say really shaped your career that you could share with us?
So that's a good question. Well, we're in New York, so let me take an example from when I was working in the U.S., because I worked in the U.S. in Reston, Virginia. I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. I was living in Georgetown, which was a wonderful experience. But I was working in Reston, Virginia for Global One, which was a joint venture with Sprint International. And we were basically in the campus of Sprint International in Reston, Virginia. And I arrived there, young French woman, not really knowing what the culture was going to be, thinking that I'm French, I was moving to the US, it was going to be so much more advanced, and I was really going to have to prove myself. And my first role was to plan for the network, the global network of Global One and Sprint International for the next year, and to draw the budgets out of that. So I had a small team, and we did the planning, we did everything we could to really think this through, work with our various partners, and then I made my first presentation of the network plan and the budget for the next year. And when I did that, the people to whom I presented, and including my boss, said, well, you're completely off, because what you're presenting is about $100 million more than what we're spending this year and than what we've put in the business plan.
Wow.
So go back. Yeah. So I thought, okay, I mean, we really worked hard. I have great members of my team. We really reviewed that. $100 million is a big number. Where did that go wrong? So we went with my team. We looked at the actuals, the bills that were coming every month. We looked at that traffic, how it was being used. And in the end, we found that actually the business plan that was put together for the creation of Global One had missed a big part of the network costs, and that it hadn't actually been reconciled yet with the invoices that were coming, which were consistent with our plans. And so we were right, and the overall business plan that had put the company together was wrong. And it's one of these moments when you realize, well, that can't be. I mean, that's just not possible. I mean, you're working in a company, you of course trust the leadership, the people who are putting that together, so you're really questioning yourself in that, I mean, I must be wrong. I mean, there's something that... And then you realize that, no, actually you're right. And you're like, how do I go about saying this?
Yes.
Because it's not about going and say, well, you're stupid and I figured it out. Then you don't keep your job. No. So it was really a good experience for me to go there and to say, well, by the way, let me draw your attention to the bills that are coming every month, and there's this new category that maybe you didn't think about, but there's this third category of network costs that maybe you thought was somewhere else, but it's really part of network cost. It's called call termination, and this is the actuals for the past few months of the year, and therefore this is the forecast, and therefore I really think that it's somehow consistent with what we had planned, and so in bringing them to realize that this was actually the case, I could bring them with me to the realization that, yes, it was the right budget. And I got a promotion out of it. So I was really proud, but I went through the whole stage thinking at a number of different times, either I've completely messed up, or my calculations are wrong, or I know I'm right, but it's going to be very difficult to get this true. And that whole learning experience has been really a very important one for me.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Any questions? I don't want to hog the conversation. There's one there, and I'm going to ask you to stand as well, because we've got lights in our eyes.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Mala. I'm an international development practitioner in New York. I'm currently with Unwired, but I've been at a few UN agencies in the past. My question for you is, we hear a lot about driving women towards STEM initiatives, which is obviously a very important point. One of the questions I have, being in international development, which is heavily populated with women, is how can we better engage with the mobile industry? Because if we're able to drive funding within our own institutions towards ICT platforms, we will get a lot of women into the field itself, but we won't have to drive them to a completely different industry. And I think that's one of the mental blocks, trying to make that transition for those of us who are interested in doing something ICT-based. How do we get involved, but how do we do it within our own field? So maybe just a few examples recently of major NGOs or major institutions that have really taken that initiative.
Okay, and then just to make sure I understand your question is how to get women who are working in a different field to get into the ICT sector?
Do you have any examples specifically of how organizations have really driven funding towards ICT initiatives? I worked at the UN World Food Program, and as great as it was, ICT platforms are really thought of as something that is very separate from the core
Okay.
operations. So how do we mainstream ICT within organizations to try to drive women
Yes.
who are already embedded in another field but maybe want to get more involved in ICT, specifically in mobile?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's the whole, I mean, if you're in the NGO field and in the development field, you of course are very familiar with the Millennium Development Goals and all these very important high-end goals of what we want humanity and the world to reach in terms of eliminating poverty, improving education, etc. When these goals were initially set, there was no mention of ICT at all in these goals, and in fairness, it was back in 2000, and people didn't really probably recognize how much ICT could contribute. But I think now that realization is really coming. I was actually in New York 2 weeks ago for the UN General Assembly Week, and I was sitting at a number of panels or lunches or discussions with people either from government or from NGOs or from the private sector. And the discussion was all around how can we be more effective, first of all, in reaching the Millennium Development Goals, and what are the either the partnership models or the sectors that can help doing that. And the conclusion, I was both at the Clinton Global Initiative, I was at the UN Millennium Development Goals panel, I sit on the UN Broadband Commission, which is a joint initiative from ITU and UNESCO. And at these three forums, the discussions was first, public-private partnerships are very much the way to go. The private sector cannot do things alone, and the public sector cannot do things alone. So getting ways to get public-private partnerships and NGOs to work with government and with industry is definitely the way to go. And the second thing was ICT and mobile in particular in developing markets is the technology that can help. And improving mobile broadband access throughout the world and enabling people, men and women, to own a mobile phone and to be able to get information about health, about jobs, about education is really a way to go. So I see that realization coming. And I think that's a very fertile ground because, yes, there's more women in the NGO side of the equation. There's starting to be a bit more women in government, especially in the ICT sector, a number of women, either regulators or telecoms ICT ministers. There's not enough women in industry, and we're pushing that. But by getting these three groups together, I think we can get opportunities both for advancement of goals and for advancement of women. Yeah.
Okay, there's one there.
Hi, I'm Joanna Rubinstein from Columbia University, and I have the privilege of also participating in this ITU UNESCO Broadband Commission. And I was extremely happy when you joined the commission earlier this year, and we met also in Mexico. As you were saying, there are not enough women in that industry, but there are many creative men, and I think they are young men, which always surprises me that they would being young men and having young wives and having small children, they should be a little bit more creative in terms how we can use the technology to enable our lives. A lot of progress has been made in development, and I always like bringing to my colleagues in the US, especially in the health sector, how much more has been accomplished in developing world, partly because that was the only solution and the only way how you could get access to any primary health care, whereas in the US and other parts of developed world, we still haven't learned how this is also cost saving, and as you were giving a great example, how this is a great prevention tool. So one of the things that I haven't seen discussed at the global level yet, and it's not just about your industry, but I think your industry plays the most important role, is giving the voice to voiceless people. We have millions of children that were never registered that they are even alive. We have just in the US 6 million children that are reported abused or neglected. The annual cost just in the US is $125 billion.
Yes.
The tool that kids now from really, they don't walk, but they know how to use is mobile phone. This is such an incredible opportunity that we can use this technology to give people access to information, to protection, to education in terms of parenting, and changing this whole situation of having, 14 million child brides, or it's really a power of human rights.
Yes, no, thank you so much for that. And actually that gives me the opportunity to speak about the program that we've started to work on at the GSMA that I'm really passionate about, which is the mobile identity or digital identity program. You say the number of children are born and they're not registered anywhere. They don't have any official existence. I think with the access to mobile and with the fact that in your SIM card you have the same level of security as in a credit card of the highest level of security, you can store information that can be your birth registration, for example, and you can do birth registration campaigns by mobile phones. You can handle elections in a way that prevents a lot of abuses that we see in a number of countries around elections. And you can have all sorts of usages from validating your payments, more mundane examples like avoiding the fact that we all have files with all of our passwords for our various sites, and we always have to remember or go back onto the file and check that. So there's many, many things that you can do through the fact that your mobile is your personal extension and has this very secure piece of encoding where you can encrypt your identity and prove your identity. And I think through that, you can do lots of things to empower children and men and women and girls and boys all around the world through birth registration, elections, proving who you are, proving your age is a very important thing to be able to do. That's why one of the reasons why birth registration is so important. If you're a child and not yet an adult, you get treated differently in terms of being drawn into the army, being taken to jail, being able to marry. I mean, all sorts of very life-changing things that can happen to you. So yes, there's a lot of things that our industry can do to improve that. Thank you.
Remember, we're struggling to see from here.
By the way, one of the things, let me just take the opportunity. I speak at a lot of events, and mostly they're events with lots of men in the audience, yeah? And when we open up for questions, I get a number of questions, and after the third question, I say, I'm also very happy to take any questions from women. Yeah. So today what I will say is I'm also very happy to take any questions from men. Yes.
They're not used to being in the minority.
Yeah. Yes.
We've got time literally for one more, and then we're going to move on to the next session. Looks like we covered everything.
Wonderful.
Thank
you so much. No, thank you,
you.
Siki. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so just to prove that we are not insular in the mobile space, we're going to be hearing from the non-telecoms perspective right now. It's actually good to hear what women in other sectors are doing, what their challenges are, what their outlook on the world is, because we could take some learnings from that as well, right? So our next three speakers join us from outside the mobile space, and they have valuable insights to share with us, things that we in the mobile industry could then take forward. Our first speaker is Deborah McWhinney, who is Global Head of City Enterprise Payments and Co-Chair of City Women at Citibank. In 2010, she was named to the list of top 50 women in wealth by Wealth Manager and was an honoree of the Aiming High Award presented by Legal Momentum and featured in Forbes magazine. She was also on the American Banker Top 25 Most Powerful Women in Banking list in 2012 and 2013. Please welcome Deborah to the stage.
Welcome, everyone. This is really an honor to be here. You know, the topic is connected women, and I just want to give you a sense. So we're in the back, in the what they call the green room. Only this one's white, but in the green room, and there's 3 of us that are going to be on the panel today, and literally, all 3 of us have, within 20 minutes of meeting each other, found ways that we may be doing business together. In 20 minutes. I mean, literally, that is what this day and this kind of a session is all about. I've been in business for a long time, and rather than talk about the technology I was asked to talk about careers, because in addition to my job at Citi, where I help large companies who have largely been in the B2B business go direct to consumer. And around the world, what you find is that most people don't have credit cards, or they have debit cards that can't be used online. And so Citibank, by our global presence and ability to do banking in 55 consumer countries and 120 countries overall, are able to help companies like L'Oreal get directly to consumers, and a lot more consumers than they would get if they just use credit cards. So we're really helping opening a market that is just primed to be open. We all talk about what's going on with mobile and the growth in mobile sales, but in order to really maximize it, companies have to be really respectful and understand what consumers around the world do with their money and how they buy things. For instance, in Brazil, we have, there's 43% of the transactions, also the same thing in China, are actually cash on delivery. Now, in the United States, we think, oh my gosh, what is that? But in Brazil, they pay for things with boletos. And they literally will print out a receipt that has barcode, and they can take it into banks, they can take it into convenience stores, they can take it into grocery stores, and pay if they want to load Apple's iTunes, or buy makeup from L'Oreal, or buy something from Nestle or Microsoft. They can literally take a receipt in, they'll pay for it, and a day later, the transaction will be able to be consummated. And we think, gee, that sounds slow and clunky. Well, that might be slow and clunky by what we're used to in the United States, but in Brazil, 43% of the online traffic thinks that's the way to do it. So, you need to be really aware of what the cultural norms are. So those are the kinds of things that we work on in mobile programs. But, really what I wanted to share more is the concept of 6 degrees of separation. Because as I look back at my career, and now I look out at how I help 142,000 women at Citi around the globe have better careers, have better, higher aspirations for themselves, what is very, very apparent is that while we can say that there's a lot of the obstacles in careers have been broken down, I think the biggest problem that we have today is that women create their own glass ceiling. Still, the glass ceiling is not somebody else's problem, it's our problem. And so whether it's Sheryl Sandberg saying, lean in, the real issue is, how do you want to live your life? And the way I phrase it is that I get asked the question a lot. So when I moved to New York about 5 years ago, 2 questions I got. Would Lehman have failed if it had been Lehman Sisters? I used to give this wonderfully politically correct answer. I no longer give a politically correct answer. I say, absolutely, I don't believe it would have. Because as I really meet the women on Wall Street and the women that are running the financial services industry, what you find is that women are different risk takers, much more holistic. I think it probably comes from, our background where we had to balance, the entire home. And whether we are even doing much in our homes now or not, it doesn't matter. I think that we are just programmed to think about more inherent risk rather than just short-term risk. And I think that's a really good thing. So we'll never know because it was Lehman Brothers. However, when the first really all-women firm comes out, when we'll be able to make some assessments. But the second question I got asked is, can you have it all? Because that's the question that's so much at the front of people's mind. Can I have it all? And my answer is yes, you can. But you have to understand what your it is. Because my it is going to be different than your it, is going to be different than your it or your it. And you have to say, at the end of the day, if you want to be CEO of a company, you're going to make some trade-offs. Men have to make the same trade-offs. You just have to figure out how you're going to get it done and what you're going to do and how you're going to move forward. But be really honest with yourself and be honest with the people at home with you, be honest with your kids. Last night they had this big dinner. It's kind of like the Golden Globes of events for banking when they have all the top women come together, and it's quite a party. And we're quite irreverent about that party. We had a really good time, but they were asking us to make messages to our daughters. And they actually asked, they didn't use them, but they asked our daughters a question. What trade-offs did you make because your mom had a fast-paced career? And my oldest daughter said to the interviewer, that's the wrong question. The question should be, what did I gain by my mom having a career? Because she always had to be around me entertaining clients. She had to be around, listening to me on the telephone talking about business and what was ever going on. And the consequence of that is now she has a career. She's actually working at IBM. She's comfortable talking to the CEO of the company. She's comfortable talking to, virtually any client that she comes in contact with because she has had to be around me dealing with tough guys my whole career. And it works for her. It's really helped her. She's traveled more than a lot of her friends. Was I there for all the soccer games? No. That was a trade-off we made. But we think that we're in good shape. So I encourage everyone to really focus on what's going to make you happy and your family, and then live with those trade-offs. And say, you know what, at the end of the day, if I'm happy with me, if I can judge myself and say, I did the right thing for me and my family, then get over what your mom wants you to do. Get over what your best friend is doing, and just be happy. Because guess what? Someday we're all going to die. You write your own epitaph, control your life. Anyway, the idea of this connected, I hope every one of you has left with like 10 people here that you didn't just meet, but you have their cards and you know what you're going to do. Because this world is so small. And the people in this room can make a difference. How many of you have made 10 new business acquaintances while you're here? 10. I want a show of hands. Great. How many of you are going to pledge that you're going to follow up with those 10? Okay? Because, one of the hard things to do is you get back to your day job and you're going, oh my God, I don't have this. No. Write down on the back of those cards or put it in your phone right now what the conversation was you had and what you're going to do about it. Because it's the people that take the initiative to come to these kind of conferences that are ones that are going to change the world. And if I had a regret, it's that I didn't do that enough. Because I would go back and do my day job and think, oh, well, I'm just going to be rewarded for doing a good job. That's not good enough anymore. That's not good enough. You've got to take that extra step. You've got to think out of the box. You've got to say, how do I put 2 and 2 together and come up with 5? And that's what will make you successful, and that's what will help all of us, really change the world by doing a better job and reaching our audiences better and, building the businesses that we also dearly want in business. So anyway, do you want me to sit up here? Okay. And
Deborah, thank you so much for those words, and I did make 10 connections, and I will make those emails. Our next speaker this morning is Isabelle Sanquan, who is Vice President of Digital Business Development with the L'Oreal Group. She drives customer marketing strategies for brands with mobile media and lifestyle at their core. Thank you so much, Isabelle.
Hello. Where do we sit? Okay. Yes, normally we have.
Do you need a clicker? Sorry, it's over there.
So first, hello everyone. So I'm very happy to connect with New York. I'm coming from Paris, so you will have this local accent from France. Connected women. This is at L'Oréal a topic. L'Oréal is for women and with women. Even if the beauty world is expanding a lot, you start when you are a little kid, and you die with beauty. It's a lifelong journey, and based on my experience, I had the chance to meet and to work at different companies, different sectors, in the IT, not IT, I would say in the connected life, specifically at Apple for 8 years. So it's very interesting for me to see the change, the customer journey from different areas, and specific for L'Oréal with a consumer product company. And it's a big, big change for L'Oréal in this sense. My role at worldwide level is to influence the transformation, I would say even not transformation, but revolution, if I may say, the revolution of connection and connected lifestyle, and beauty lifestyle is part of it, which is a big change for a company like L'Oréal having 33 global brands. Local brands, when we say local, it's clear if you are living in China or if you are living in USA, you don't have the same cultural aspect and relationship with beauty, and you don't have also the same, I would say, skin and so on. So L'Oréal needs to adapt to women and to people in that sense. I choose 3 words, and I am happy if everyone can make 10 connections. What I learn sometimes is best to have 3 top connections, the 3 things you like to achieve. It's what I learned in my previous life, is to focus on the 3 top things you like to achieve in the next 3 months. And it helps a lot in the daily life as well in the business, and it helps to stay focused. So today, I will focus with you on connected women, because in fact, as we mentioned, we have to combine professional, private, family, and social life. So it's 4, you see. And if you look at, we are all connected with our mobile. And we should think, what do we do today with our mobile? What is the most important thing we would like to do? And what does this mean in your business, in your daily life? The second, which is a big, big, big topic if you look at specific in eye health, but also in beauty, it's coming up, it's connected products, intelligent products which can make our life easier as a woman in professional and in private life. And there is plenty of opportunity in this area to use mobile with connected product. That's the beginning of a big change in the world. Connected product is not only about the geolocation, but it's also connected product between Africa, Asia, America, Europe. So it's very, very interesting. It has to do with big data, which is not the topic today, but think about this because it's a major change in every area. And last but not least, it's about connected brand, because we are related to brands. We like brands. Everyone is a trademark for every one of us. And specifically for L'Oréal, it's very, very important. So connected women, I would say that I am proud to see that women are heavy users of mobile in general. What it means tablet, whatever. Mobile is not referring only to phone, but it's in general. And why? Because we have to cope with different facets of our lifestyles. And specifically, we have to do many things with our mobile. It's like in our pocket. So for you, me, and us, the first focus for L'Oréal is to think, how can I make my life easier, richer, nicer? That's the only 3 things. And it's not so easy to think about an application which has this free asset and which is driving lots of download, but usage frequency. Mobile is about everyday usage. And you see connected product. Connected products are related to mobile. It's a little bit little, but you clearly see that if you think about the customer journey, about your business, it's good to start with the mobility. and to understand at which stage of your product, of your offering, you will have a connectivity with mobile. And this is changing the game and the business and the way you think about the customer journey. For L'Oréal, we are testing, we are at the beginning of application. We have many applications. I would say we are not there, except for the left one, what you see, the Body Shop, who is business driven. And the Body Shop is really interesting because people who are using this application, the women, are really related to the brand, so they want to have this daily connection, this everyday connection to the brand. They like to have the latest information, but not only, they have to get the support, the tutorial, the way to use, and then to buy and click where they are, either in the shop, if they are visiting a shop, or on the go. In the other tools, you see much more the application way. For example, for hairstyle, it is the most difficult things for a woman to choose the right color, the right lifestyle. And here, the duty of L'Oréal is to provide all these tutorials on the way you go, where you are, everywhere you are, everywhere. So we will see, we will see a video. Just a minute. I don't know if the video can be long.
Forget about that line. Throw it away. You've got to remember to race. And then comes slingshotting off this wall. She wants to have a chance at gold. Can she lower her world record? She's ahead of the line right now. Sony's going to win back-to-back golds in the 200 breast. And she is going to break it again.
May you stop? This is not this video. Okay, doesn't matter. So there is a video which is explaining the journey of the women in their everyday life by buying a product. So you clearly see the way you can buy at home, discover tutorial in the bathroom, in the, I would say in the dining room, outside, and so on. And with augmented reality, you can have many different areas. So you can find this video on different YouTube and so on. So for the way L'Oréal is talking to women with women. And personally, I think there is a great initiative. Okay, so you like to see the video? Yes. Okay, let's go for the video. Thank you.
Think less but see it grow. Like a ride, oh. Not easily offended. Know how to let it go. From a mess to the masses. A list of many, think less but see it grow. Like a ride, oh. Not easily offended. Know how to let it go. From a mess to the masses. Follow misguided, stand still. Discuss, discouraged. On this precious weekend and in this love for gentlemen only. Wealthiest gentlemen only. But now that you're lonely, do let, let's go slowly discouraged. We'll burn the pictures instead. When it's all over, we can barely discuss for 1 minute only. Not with a fortune and only. Thought it could have been something else. These days it comes and goes. A list of many, think less but see it grow. Like a ride, oh.
So thank you. So you see, there is the vision, and then there is the reality of daily life and business. But it shows exactly in this video that you cannot do it alone. And I am so happy we have banking sector, music sector, and other sector represented, because it shows that part of the innovation and Connected Women is collaborative project working. Today, you cannot decide, even if you are a big company and worldwide company like L'Oréal, that you need the technology from third parties, you need partners in financing, you need partners in different areas of the world. And that's a good opportunity for women to improve collaborative working world. I'm personally convinced that women are more oriented if they are open to collaborative working than men, but that's my personal view. And I think to have men and women together working on this aspect of connected world is definitely key. That's why L'Oréal, to finish, is giving this initiative to support young women and every woman, I would say, not only young, who have great ideas in the digital world and digital program. This initiative has been started by L'Oréal USA, and every year you have this so-called digital award for women, by women, focus on different programs, which can be mobile, which can be new companies, and I invite you, as you are based here, to follow the award of this year, which are really impressive. This gives the possibility for L'Oréal not to work only with big companies, but to work with startups, really startups, because we can learn a lot. Startups are much more flexible than big chief companies like L'Oréal, and there is a win-win situation in the cultural aspect. That's the world where we are, to have L'Oréal women entrepreneurship. And I am happy to follow up with you.
Isabel, thank you very much. I'm going to give you a chance, of course, to ask any questions before we go into our networking break. Our next speaker is Tina Clark, founder and CEO of DMI Music, an entertainment and music marketing company that she envisioned more than 15 years ago. And they specialize in connecting brands to their customers through the emotional power of music. Outside of DMI, Tina has worked as a songwriter and a producer, and in fact, she was commissioned to write I Believed, a commemorative song to honor Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in celebration of the 100th anniversary of International Women's Day, and she is a passionate advocate for women's rights. Please welcome Tina Clark.
Well, good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
I'm glad to be here. I had a great time meeting everyone, and like Deborah was saying, we were already doing business in the back room back there. But I guess what I'd like to say in these few short minutes is, I'd mentioned it earlier, I think, to Vicki, that it was so engaging to see, obviously it's Connected Women, but to see so many women and young women here in this space. It's I have a 26-year-old daughter, so it's very enlightening and encouraging. You know, we all talk about breaking the glass ceiling. Women, you hear that a million times, breaking the glass ceiling. But I feel like for me, it's been more like my entire life has been a salmon swimming upstream, just constantly. And I was born and raised in Mississippi, and I moved to LA 30 years ago. I've been in the music business my whole life, and it's been a journey. It continues to be a journey. And you know, you have these different chapters in your life, and how you connect those chapters and how they evolve. And I think it's so important. The most important thing, and the message I would give my daughter, as Deborah was talking about her daughter, would be, and to each of you, is to just always be in the game. Get in the game. Don't sit on the sidelines and try to judge everybody else. You know, you get nowhere there. What is this saying that well-behaved women never make history? Is so true. And if you just sit on the sidelines and try to tell everybody else, or whatever technology or this or that, oh, that's not happening, and that's, you know, you're putting everything down, but you're not in there. You're not in there getting roughed up. You're not in there taking the hits. You're not in there falling down and having to get up and dust yourself off and start over again. You're not in there losing everything you've built and then starting over again. That, to me, is where the courage is built, that is where the stamina is built, and that is where the success is built. Not being safe. Believe me, it was not safe going from Mississippi to Los Angeles. I had to buy some shoes. No, we do have paved roads in Mississippi, last time I checked. But we do have a rich music heritage from down there. But my dream was I was always a musician from the time of 10 years old. My goal was to be the drummer for the Supremes. Well, that didn't happen, but I did end up producing a lot of those artists and writing for a lot of those artists. So I went to I went to LA on a wing and a prayer, and LA's been very good to me. But at the time when technology really, I had, been a producer, writer in film, television, commercials. But when the internet really came to the forefront of people in the music industry's minds, my colleagues, probably in about 95 is when everybody started looking around. In 97, things got very serious, and half of my colleagues were like, the music industry is over, run for the hills, and the other half was like, oh, it's not going to affect us at all. And believe it or not, there are still people in the music industry that think they can still do it the old way. Well, in 97, I jumped off that mainstream ship. At the time, I was with Miles Copeland, and we had a label on EMI. And my passion my whole life was to create music in wherever it touched people. So if I was asked to write for a film, it was about making, when you look at that film, that particular scene, that you are feeling that emotion. I don't know if any of you have ever had the opportunity to watch a film without a score before it's been scored, but it's painful because that emotion is not driven through those different pieces. So whether it's in film or whether it's a commercial, I was tapping my foot to to your video, or whatever it may be, that it is driving an emotion there. So it didn't really matter to me where that, I guess I was tired of having to depend on radio and R&R in the music business to dictate who was going to hear what song. So to me, as a composer and a producer, it was all about how am I going to get that music to you? And with times changing, I think it's pretty exciting. And I started feeling that way, and I started this company in 97. And the whole goal of me starting DMI was I wanted to connect consumers to brands through music. And I felt like I didn't care if the distribution was on this, or a thumbnail. It was about how do I get music in the hands of consumers demographically, whatever they're going to like. But I knew a little bit about branding enough to know that branding with brands was a great, music connection with brands was a great way for music to be heard. And I'm not talking about just my music, I'm talking about millions of pieces of music. So when we started out, United Airlines was our first client globally. And through the years, we have obviously a wide variety of major global brands that we connect consumers to music and their consumers to music and entertainment, and therefore it enhances their brand. It's been a very exciting journey, and it's to me about whatever you're doing is you have that platform. And for me, the platform and the passion behind that platform was just so that I could continue to do music. It may sound very simple, but that was the passion and the driving force for me, is that I wanted to still do music. Just because the music industry, I call it the deconstruction of the music industry. A lot of people call it the destruction of the music industry. Obviously, you could look at that glass as half empty or half full. And so many people looked at it as like, oh my God, and obviously a lot of people are out of work, and I'm not taking that lightly because the old way of doing it has changed. Artists now, it would blow your mind, the artists that walk into my door, major artists and new artists, They don't want to sign with a record label. They want to do it the new way. They want to be discovered through various platforms, online, mobile, etc. They don't want to be tied up for 7 or 10 or 15 years at a label. So it's, to me, looking at the glass half full, it is the wild, wild west. And it's very exciting. It's very exciting to me to wake up every morning and to know that, you know, this is a new day in the industry that I am in. And with the new technology that we just created, which is called Engine One, which Adweek, it just came out yesterday, well, online in Adweek, but you can see it if you Google it. But it's about how we're connecting now through a new platform we created through email. And it is, once again, it is just about a new platform to get that music connected. I mean, get the brand connected to the consumer, because we know that all the brands we deal with, and the majority of brands, want that connection. Well, obviously they want the connection, but a big part of brands want that connection through music. And it hasn't been affordable in the past, and we have found a way to make it more affordable and to drive retention. So with that said, I would just like to wrap my piece of this up by saying, as you go through and your different chapters move on, my daughter's 26 now. Deborah and I were talking about our kids, and she's in vet school at Georgia. And, you know, I want to be her when I grow up, because there are no, from a social standpoint of the world, you know, there are no barriers that she sees. And we grew up with so many barriers. There are no barriers. There are no differences. And I am, as Siki said, I am very much involved in so many women's issues and women's rights issues. I don't know if any of you were involved at all in 1 Billion Rising, Eve Ensler's 1 Billion Rising. But that was such a life-changing moment for me to write that song and to be involved in that. But I just think more and more it is about women connecting, and as Deborah said, Lehman Sisters. I'm not so sure if it was Lehman Sisters, it wouldn't have been different, but you know more about that than I do. But it is about making a footprint and something that you're proud of, along with being on the rat, you know, in the rat race every day and on that wheel and staying in the game and as I said, getting bruised and beat up and all that. But at the end of the day, that you know your journey was not about shoring up your life. And this is where I am right now in my life, is that it's not about shoring up and let me gather as much money and as many things as I possibly can for what? You know, I want to help you, and I want to help you, and I want to help you, and I want to help my sister in South Africa, and I want to help my sister in Afghanistan, and I want to help those women and those young women that don't have the opportunity to be sitting here where all of us are right now. So I think it is about, yes, being that salmon, staying in the game, but it is also about leaving that footprint that you are going to be proud of. So thank you very much.
Tina, thank you very much for that. And I think what I take away from this, and just listening to all three of you and listening to the people that we've spoken to yesterday as well, is that there's a lot that each individual can do in their corner. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, what industry that you are in. Use whatever your talents, whatever your connection, whatever your network is to connect the next person. Would you agree, Deborah?
I agree with that more now than I probably would have 20 years ago, because now the influence of one person is so much bigger, whether it's social media, just the individual voice is so much more powerful than it was before internet and social media. And the consequence of that is that you have the ability, each person in this room has the ability to move the needle by being clear in their message, by understanding what their passion is, and then doing something about it. And that honestly is, to me, the most exciting thing in the whole world, is that whether it's the music industry or anything else, an individual can break out of the mold, they can break out of anything that were the conventional wisdom of how you get things done, and just do it differently. You can get manufacturing done anywhere in the world, you can distribute things anywhere in the world, and these old conventional companies are hugely at risk because nimble players, innovative people, can nip at them, and you don't have to get it hugely right to make a big difference.
How would you define risk? We talk about entrepreneurs, are they risk takers? We're going to have a full conversation about that a little bit later after the networking break. But would you call yourself a risk taker?
To the max. Yeah. My dad told me many, many years ago, he said, you'll never make any money or make a living if you don't take risk. He said, if you try to play it safe, he said, forget about it. He said, you'll have a very safe and boring and probably not so safe life that will easily fall apart. So, yeah, I
So
took
you've
that to
got
heart.
take some risks.
Yeah. I've lived with and I've lived without. And I think it's all part of the journey.
Yeah. And I always ask this question, who are your role models? Who do you look up to?
Do you need to look up to? That's the question. Be yourself, I would say. It's clear you have association with brands or engineering, but it's very important to know his life pattern and according to the personality. If you have a discrepancy between your life, your business objective, I would say, because at least we want to do business, and your vision, then it will not be authentic at a certain point, as you mentioned, and then you will have much more difficulties to move forward. So it's very important to know not to say I will do step 1, step 2, step 3, but to your 3 key assets as a person, because in fact we all have our personality asset, and to stick to them. And you can see it people who are very famous in the business, in the fashion, in the beauty industry, and people who are not famous. If you compare them, the true people, they have these 3 assets, and they follow their lives. Personally, I think I had the chance to stick to customer connection. That was always my passion in life. And I had the chance to follow from direct marketing, paper, to internet, and probably because I was authentic in my passion, I had the chance to meet the right company at the right time. Is it risk? This risk. I'm not a risk taker as probably you are. I never launched a company. But as you have seen, I said for young women who started a startup. And then I said, no, not only young women. Because in fact, to start now, it's much easier to start his own company and his own idea because of you mentioned of his open world, of his open possibilities that you didn't have before. And you can start with not as many budget or I would say investment, because the idea is much more valuable today as before. So you can see it's, for example, for L'Oréal, it's very, very important. As a big company, we move slowly. You have seen, I'm very happy we could see the video, because that's the dream of L'Oréal. We are far away. And we will come to that situation if we are able to work with intelligent women and men who are very agile, who are giving this idea where we can give the budget and the power. Because this agility is not given to big company today, and that's the difficulties. And you can see it even for Apple, like company, at a certain point, it's very, very hard to keep this agility. So I would say as a person, if you have in your heart this flexibility and agility, it's not a matter of age or where you live, it's a matter where you are connected to the world and to the people. And thanks to the social network, you can easily stay connected. And the more you are open to this world, the easier it is for you. And risk is, I would say, risk is positive. In private life, like in professional life, like in family life, like where you live. I used to live 15 years in Germany. I traveled a lot in California and so on. Even from a private life, I didn't live in 15 countries like some people are doing. I'm very happy to speak at least 3 languages completely and to know the culture. And this is part of our life today, is to be able to understand various culture, because this open to this flexibility and connected world. And this is probably for L'Oréal and for brands where you see new brands coming from nowhere and being successfully very big, because they understand this 3 topic, flexibility, connected world, and culture. We need to have in our world a multicultural and culture, and to keep this. Otherwise, we will be unified, and then we will not take risks, we will not be innovative, and we will not be agile. So that would be my recommendation. You don't need to travel and take the plane, because today you can travel via internet very easily and discover many people, and you can see it. That's the way what we see in politics and in everywhere. So as a woman, this is a chance, because before, I would say before, you had this cultural aspect very strong by where you live or where in the social life, and you can break. There is no wall anymore, I would say. It's up to you to see if you want to step from various social lifestyle, various cultural lifestyle, various business lifestyle. And I'm very happy I had the chance to meet various companies in very different way, with one focus always, customer strategy, customer connected, customer journey. So this is the one point you follow in your, I would say, life or career life.
And stay curious, I would say. Remain curious.
Yes,
Oh, definitely.
maybe I should
Please
have
be
said
curious.
yes.
We've got time for one question. Burning question.
Over here.
Going what? Is there one? Okay, there we go.
Hi, good morning. My name is Lillian Shagan. I'm with the Rockefeller Foundation. I'm going to be a bit provocative. While I firmly believe in the power of technology and the access that this technology provides to education, improving health outcomes, but I'm interested to hear what your industries are doing to address the negative consequences of too much access. Because I was watching that L'Oreal commercial, and I was just thinking, my goodness, how do we ensure that our young women aren't worse off financially by, overspending, especially when you're talking about the youth who have limited resources, but yet are facing extreme social pressures. So I just thought I'd be a bit provocative and just just raise this question.
Well, since I come from the financial services industry, which has been the evil empire I actually think that I'm going to say 2 things that our company is doing, and I'm really proud of them. One is we have an enormous effort around financial literacy. And there's a lot of different people that are approaching financial literacy in different ways. But, honestly, it is appalling to me, because I grew up in a family that if you had a checking account, you didn't overdraw it. That, if you signed up for a mortgage, you presumed you were going to pay it back. Little things like that. And I think that it is really a misstep in our society, particularly in the United States. It's not as bad globally, by the way. People are much more responsible with their money. And so we're, really focused on financial literacy. The other thing we're doing is we're really have a global initiative, and actually even just started in the United States around microfinance. So the other side of it is helping women, and even more broadly than that now, start small businesses and then nurturing them. And I'm trying to think of, because we know we have been in the room together, and I'm thinking it was with the Vital Voices. Were you ever involved?
Yes.
There you go. See, this is connections. Yeah. So I'm pretty involved in Vital Voices, which is an initiative that the State Department started when Madeleine Albright was head of the State Department and Hillary Clinton was in the living in the White House. And through the Vital Voices program, we mentor women, and then we're also sponsoring something to help women that are above the microfinance level. So they probably have about 50 employees in their companies around the world. And now we're helping getting the women, really highly talented, financially savvy women that work at Citi, because that's kind of the nature of our industry. We're now helping these women that have these businesses be more successful, understand foreign exchange, understand moving across borders and things like that. So I'm really proud of the initiatives that we've got. I mean, we were in 120 countries, so we really have the ability to reach out. And then last, the Citi Women, we have the largest International Women's Day event around the world. Citibank does this. Last year we had events, over 200 events in over 100 countries. We follow the sun, so we start and we literally do it 24 hours a day. We have client events, we teach in schools, we mentor individuals, and we're going to have a big goal this year. We're not ready to announce it, but during the week of International Women's Day, not just this, top women, but women across Citi are going to be doing something to really address this financial literacy and STEM training and STEM classes for women to just show the power of the women in our company.
Wow.
All right.
So that's
That's where we knew each other.
We'll leave it there. We're completely out of time, but thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Don't worry.
That's great. That's it.
Yeah.
So were you at the International
Yeah,
Women's
that's
Day?
what it was.
Where I had the girl that was with Michael Jackson.
They're still catching up. Don't worry. It's Connected Women. It's an absolute pleasure. Ooh, careful. We're going to take a 30-minute comfort break, coffee break. Please be back in 30 minutes so I can release you at the end on time for lunch. And you online, join us again as well in 30 minutes. That's funny. And I need to take... I need to go and take my pills because I think I'm getting sick.
Ladies and Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin again in approximately 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. So if you can make your way to your seats, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please take your seats? We would like to begin the session. Please make your way to your seats so we can begin the next session. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we could all take our seats and settle down, and we can then start the next session. I have the hardest job in the world, Kathy. Ladies and gentlemen, if we could all settle down, and we'll get into our next keynote session now. Haven't we just heard from some really amazing women this morning? I really think we should give everybody who's spoken so far at this conference a big round of applause, because when I think back to where we were this time last year to where we are now, how we've moved, and we're starting to really identify some areas where we can actually do something about something. It's one thing knowing what the problem is. It's another one to say, right, how are we going to fix it? And I love the fact that a lot of the speakers who've sat on the stage or stood at this podium have actually said, right, this is what we can do. Here are some ideas. And what I'm hoping is going to actually happen is that with exactly what was said by Deborah, it's not just about you and advancing just yourself, I suppose, but it's also about connecting with people here to do some of the things that we've talked about and actually start smaller initiatives. So when I run into you next year and we're doing this, we can see the progress that you've made in your own corner. It's time now for our keynote, and our speaker is Kathy Coughlin, who is Senior Executive Vice President and Global Marketing Officer at AT&T, the world's largest telecommunications company. She oversees their brand strategy, their advertising, their corporate communications, events, and sponsorships worldwide. Please welcome to the stage, Kathy.
Hillary told me this is the Madonna mic, so I'm feeling my Madonna here this morning. Thank you, Siki. I also want to thank Ann Bouvero for inviting me here today. This is, I just so enjoyed the dialogue this morning, and just got to reconnect with Tina Clark, who I know through an organization that we're both part of, and that was just a terrific panel. This is such an important group, and as Siki said, I can't wait to see where this goes next year. I hope that we all see each other at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, and I'm really honored to be a part of this morning's agenda. You know, it is a great time to be part of our industry all around the globe. Before I came here, I took a look at some numbers that GSMA has forecasted through 2017, and I think we'd all agree they tell a pretty compelling story about our industry. First, our industry is growing. Not every industry is growing. Our industry is growing from about 6.8 billion connections worldwide today to close to 10 billion by 2017. Secondly, we're fueling the economy. Certainly here in the United States and around the globe, we are fueling the economy, with ecosystem revenues expected to top $9 trillion between now and 2017. And I think those of us Americans here in the United States, those are the numbers that our policymakers are discussing about the debt ceiling, right? And the trillions of dollars, and you think about the impact that our industry has on our American economy. Third, we're investing $1.1 trillion in global CapEx spend from 2013 to 2017. And finally, we're creating a lot of jobs, an estimated 1.3 million jobs in the next 5 years around the world. According to GSMA, 4G LTE networks, so for those not in our industry, super fast networks, mobile wireless networks will account for 1 in every 5 mobile broadband connections by 2017. And as an industry, we will combine the power of those super fast networks with cloud storage. So stuff doesn't have to be resident on your device. All your addresses, contacts, videos, pictures can live up in the cloud. Why is that important? Well, we all know this convergence will create an even more connected world than we have today. A world where things like keys and wallets and desktops are made obsolete, and medicine is personalized and preemptive. my boss, Randall Stevenson, who is AT&T's chairman, spoke at the Mobile World Congress earlier this year, and he said, you know, the last 6 years have been all about transforming our industry with building out these super fast networks and cloud capabilities. The next 6 years are going to be about transforming every other industry. This is all thanks to the fact that our industry is innovating on a grand scale, one that is virtually, I would say, unmatched by any other industry. And our connected life technologies are making an incredible impact. So if you think about it, smart metering is predicted to cut enough carbon emissions to save 1.2 billion trees. We're just talking billions and trillions this morning, right, over the next 5 years. Telematics will enable 40 million people to be fed in developing countries by preventing food from going to waste during transport. And think about that, because they're wirelessly connected. And mobile education will allow nearly 200 million more children to stay in school over the next 5 years. Innovation like this is the backbone of our industry, something that I think we all do and should take great pride in. And it's also an essential part of the DNA at AT&T. I'm very proud to be part of a company, a 137-year-old company of innovation. We've got 8 Nobel Prizes. We've got more than 10,000 patents. We get more every day. I would just present my case here to the jury that innovation is alive and well in our industry and alive and well at AT&T. And I would say that across our industry, across my company, we must and we will keep innovating. My whole point in giving the trillions and billions is just to make the point. Again, we innovate as carriers, as telecom providers, as mobile carriers. We innovate at a scale that is really unmatched in other industries. So we got to keep going, keeping on, right? Which means we have to attract the best and brightest. And I know that's been a topic of discussion for the past couple days. So I just wanted to share a couple things that we're doing, how we're approaching this need for perpetual innovation at AT&T. First, how we're working to attract and retain the best talent. Secondly, how we're reimagining how we interface with the mobile ecosystem by sparking and growing innovation. And third, a few thoughts. I'm a marketer. I'm in charge of marketing. A few thoughts on how communicators and marketers can help infuse innovation into our storytelling to advance our industry. So, first point. We are laser focused on attracting the best and brightest to AT&T. We're innovating at an unprecedented pace. We're all transforming the world yet again. But, and I think this has been talked about a lot, right? We're not always, AT&T nor the mobile industry, is not always a top of mind career choice for tech savvy new innovators. Would you agree? Right. In the past, we have been seen as a safe place, a secure place. The telephone company, you know, my mother used to work for the telephone company, so my mother's telephone company, and maybe even a little boring. We're working really hard to change that perception to match the reality that we're an innovative, agile, exciting, and cool technology company to change that perception. So, a couple things we're doing, and I'd say it starts with the people pipeline. It starts by connecting potential employees to our industry and AT&T very early on, and we had a very robust discussion about this at our breakfast this morning. Very early on in their lives. That means having a presence at events like middle school hackathons and tech festivals. This is especially, and we've talked about this, important for girls. I'm on the National Girl Scout Board here in the United States, and the research would tell you that at about the age of 12, girls start to lose interest in science, technology, engineering, and math, and start to recede. And up until then, they share a love of those subjects as much as boys, but from then on, the boys advance, the girls recede. If we can, and that's why at AT&T we're investing in the Girl Scouts. We invest in Girls Who Code, which is a great program across the country. We invest in Girls Inc. because they're all working to make sure that girls participate in the future economy, which is all going to be about mobile technology, science, and engineering. So if we can expose young people, and I would say in particular young girls, to the cool side of tech early on, it's going to have a huge impact. Secondly, we're focused on the best and brightest talent at the top 20 technical schools. That includes MIT, Georgia Tech, Northwestern University, and Stanford. As a result, our approach today is a lot different on the recruiting front than it was when I started 34 years ago. In fact, we're re-architecting nearly every facet of our approach to our workforce. First, we're taking a hard look at compensation. Several of our business units are aligning compensation similar to how companies in Silicon Valley pay their employees. So in some cases, that means a sign-on bonus and a very different benefits package. You know this. Young people coming in today are not looking for a 30 or a 34-year career or a 40-year career. They're looking for 3 to 5 years, and that drives a very different compensation package. Another really simple thing we're doing is changing some of our the job descriptions. So wouldn't you rather be known as a data scientist than a senior program manager, right? Just simple things like that. Third, in many of our startup efforts, we're reconfiguring our work environment. We have open workspaces, more meeting and gathering rooms, and bigger kitchens. Everyone is congregating around kitchens, and food is important. We want our work groups like finance, HR, IT, marketing to be together in spaces that fosters collaboration, brainstorming, and speed to market. In some of our new facilities, you're going to see ping pong tables, people wearing jeans, snacks everywhere, and big open workspaces that look a lot like kitchen tables where employees collaborate. There are a lot of whiteboards for them to write on and share their ideas, and large digital monitors they can use as well. All this creates a work environment where things get done and really feeds the passions that the young people today want to be part of. In fact, the folks on our big data team who work in this type of environment have a saying: try fast, fail fast, and when it works, scale fast. Fourth, we understand that many of our employees didn't come to us with a background in technology, and that's why we're working with Sebastian Thrun, who runs Udacity, and Georgia Tech, we've just introduced the opportunity for employees, and then now it's open to anyone really, to apply to earn a master's degree in computer science all online. At AT&T, we're going to cover the tuition for outside AT&T. A full master's degree in computer science from Georgia Tech is going to cost $7,000, making it much, much, much more accessible. And finally, we're actively communicating that working at AT&T gives our employees a chance to make a meaningful difference in the world. Young people today have a voracious appetite to do good, and we want to feed that hunger. One example, we're using our influence to help in texting while driving through our It Can Wait movement. More than 3 million people have pledged to never text and drive, and some 1,500 organizations have joined us. I think there was a young woman, I think it was you, who made the point about using mobile technology for good, to reach, whether it's children or people at risk, giving them the accessibility and the information that can make their lives better. These are the kinds of projects that in addition to the work projects that we're saying, please have at it. This kind of work is rewarding, it's important for society, and again, if you think about our industry, we are so integrated into everyone's everyday life that we can have a big impact. So it's about compensation and benefits, it's about the work environment, and I would say it's about feeding their souls and feeding their stomachs. Moving on to my second point, we're reimagining how we engage with the mobile ecosystem by opening up innovation to even more folks, both inside and outside the company. Within AT&T, 143,000 of our 240,000 employees are engaged in what we call the innovation pipeline. It's just simply the largest corporate crowdsourcing program in the world. Any one of our 240,000 employees can submit an idea, it gets crowdsourced, it gets thumbs up, thumbs down, and then the top winning ideas get invested in. Through TIP, we've invested more than $32 million to develop some really great ideas from our employees. In fact, one of our AT&T women, a customer care specialist from Detroit, came up with our Drive Mode app, which helps prevent texting while driving. Basically, it gets activated. When I'm driving, it sends an email to anyone texting or emailing me that says, hey, I'm driving, I'll get back to you when I'm safe. We've quickly brought it to market and it's been downloaded 350,000 times. We've also opened 5 Foundry Innovation Centers in Palo Alto, California, in Atlanta, Georgia, Israel, and 2 in Plano, Texas. There we work with developers to help put their ideas on the fast track. So we work with startup companies, developers who come into these foundries, work with us, take our scale, get it to market. In Atlanta, for example, we're developing a service that folks can use to get virtual hands-on guidance. Think about a plumber preparing your sink who's unsure what to do next. With this service, he could use his tablet to contact an expert, hold up the tablet's camera facing the pipes. The expert would see the image on his screen and draw, or her screen, and draw on it to illustrate where repairs need to be made. In Plano, we're working on a service that would allow you to track the location of your bag if it gets lost by the airline. So just thousands of these kinds of examples. A lot of these great ideas are generated by events we sponsor, including around 100 fast pitch competitions where developers have just a few minutes, like 10 to 15 minutes, to give us their idea. And then we also have about 30 hackathons. We've talked about hackathons this morning a year. We're moving forward with all of this innovation with a singular mobile-first mindset for our customers. It really is a mindset. It's about how we approach everything from our designing our products to designing the experience that says our customers want to interface with us from a mobile perspective. So have I designed the product so that that enables that? Have I designed the experience? So for instance, when you walk into one of Ralph de la Vega's new retail stores, you won't see counters and cash registers. Our sales staff can handle any transaction from their tablets or their smartphones. So they're side by side with the customer. There's not a barrier between the customer and the employee. Mobile first. Through our updated My AT&T app, you can manage all of your AT&T accounts, check data usage, or find the closest Wi-Fi hotspot all from your device. Mobile first. Internally, we've created mobile apps to share news with our employees, provide training, and help them collaborate and network. For customers, we announced this at the Mobile World Congress earlier this year. We're helping General Motors build connected cars, putting LTE technology in their cars that will make driving safer and more enjoyable. We think of it as a smartphone on wheels. And we're delivering home monitoring and security services called Digital Life, giving you control of your home through your smartphone and your tablet from virtually anywhere across the globe, mobile first. So that brings me to my final point, and that's the role, again, I don't know how many other marketers, we're all marketers, right, at the end of the day, as storytellers play to help build our brand. At AT&T, we relaunched our brand because I would tell you that the perception of our brand lagged the reality of our company. We relaunched our brand in 2010 with our Rethink Possible campaign, and this has really helped us close the gap, although we still have a ways to go. We're also innovating how we reach our customers using the very platforms like social media that our products enable. We had a program this summer called Summer Break that targeted young consumers, followed some I think they were like 17 and 18-year-olds, a little bit of risk, but followed some 17 and 18-year-old California teens on YouTube, Twitter, and other social platforms. And they were using our technology, and so we were just showing them in everyday life. And we weren't front and center, brought to you by AT&T, but you saw the technology that's part of their lives. It tallied 8.5 million YouTube views. We're challenging ourselves to be compelling storytellers. For last year's Summer Olympics, we created ads that got people really buzzing. So we created ads in real time for the London Olympics, ads that had everyone asking, how did AT&T do that? So I'm going to share one of those ads right now, and unfortunately it tried to crash in on Isabel's presentation, so you've already seen a little sneak preview of it. We could run that ad.
Forget about that line. Throw it away. You've got to remember to race. And then comes slingshotting off this wall. She wants to have a chance at goal. Can she lower her world record? She's ahead of the line right now. Sony's going to win back-to-back goals to the 200 breast. And she is going to break it again. Unbelievable at the end. And look at this reaction. Silver in the 100. Gold medal in the 200. And another world record for Rebecca Sony.
What you see see there is, you heard the actual telecast. So Rebecca Sony won the race. We went to commercial and played that commercial. Kind of still gives me goosebumps, I have to say. And we used the fact that London was 5 hours ahead of us, so we had created these ads where we had like 30 versions of that time on the chalkboard. And so, because we knew it wouldn't be a minute faster or 10 minutes faster, right? So we challenged ourselves as marketers. We're part of this incredible industry, using our technology, showing how it's part of everyday life. She wins the race, it goes to commercial. I had so many, what happened there, right? So we can have fun with it too. And specific to women at AT&T, we're turning up the volume on women's leadership. We have such an inspirational story at AT&T, and we're trying to do a better job getting that story out. More than 90,000 of our employees are women. More than 16,400 of them hold STEM jobs. More than 26,800 of them help run our world-class network operations. Nearly 2,000 AT&T women are general managers, and more than 1,000 women inventors are named on AT&T patents. Women like Marion Croak, who has 132 patents herself, and is the third most prolific inventor in AT&T's history. Women like Chris Rinney, a female network pioneer, being inducted into the Wireless History Hall of Fame on October 15th, only the second woman to achieve that honor. These women are innovators. We're an innovation company. We're part of an innovative industry. My whole point here today is that we need to tell that story, that the wireless, the mobile telecom industry is part of everyone's everyday life and is transforming the world. Our efforts to change the world, to tell our innovation stories, both as individual companies and as an industry, will go a long way to helping us attract the best and brightest, including more women and young people. It's time for all of us to get loud about our industry's innovation identity. We're not just telecom, we're not just service providers, we're not just networks. We're innovators, and we're about to transform the world once again. Now, tell me, who wouldn't want to be a part of that? Thank you so much for having me today. I've really enjoyed, and I look forward to this growing and growing.
I've just been reliably informed that October the 11th today is International Day of the Girl. So we're actually meeting at the right time, having these conversations. Right, we're going to be talking now a little bit about the value of having an entrepreneurial mindset, what that could do for the mobile industry. So to help us set the scene, on the stage will be Vicky McLeod, who's Secretary General of the GTWN. She's an international communications policy and regulatory consultant with considerable experience in both the private and the public sectors. She's also a great supporter and a great help to the GSMA's Connected Women event. Vicky, thank you very much. Please join us.
Thanks, Siki. It's very nice to be here today, and thank you once again to the GSMA for inviting me to be with you and to share some thoughts that I've had on the question of entrepreneurship. I have a short opportunity now to be a bit provocative and to challenge perhaps some of your preconceptions about what entrepreneurship is and how it might be of value to the mobile industry. And the first question that comes to my mind when thinking about is what does make an entrepreneur? Is it the fact of a cultural or a national difference? Is it as a result of education, formal or informal? Or does it really come from a family background and a great support network? And first of all, I'd like to think about the question of national culture, because a lot of the press about entrepreneurship, especially for the tech sector, focuses in particular on Silicon Valley. And you might get the impression that only nationals of this country can be entrepreneurial, or we all need to become one national identity in order to be entrepreneurial. And before I go to the next slide, my apologies to all the wonderful entrepreneurial French women in the audience, because you'll see what I'm... This is my favourite Bushism. And it was later denied by the president that he'd actually said this, but it was reputed to have been said in discussion with Tony Blair when the question came up about how can you influence the French. And so he said, as you can see there, the problem with the French is that they don't have a word for entrepreneur. Now, this, of course, goes to the president's famed knowledge of languages, but it also raises a very interesting point that, in fact, English speakers don't have a word for entrepreneur. And the question is why? Now, if you actually literally translate that, and I'm displaying my background as a linguist here, you actually translate it as undertaker. And I think you might see why we don't use the term undertaker, but it actually means not funereal undertaker, it actually means in the traditional sense of someone who undertakes something. And that's what it literally means, someone who acts, someone who sees an idea and acts upon it. And then I thought about, well, what's the sort of icons of entrepreneurial behaviour that we see in the media all the time, and what does that tell us about what it means to be an entrepreneur? I'm sure you'll recognise at least two of these faces. Of course, we've got Richard Branson, we've got Steve Jobs, but I don't know if you can recognise the other two on the other side of the slide. The one at the top is Thomas Edison, who had more than 1,000 patents to his name. And the bottom one, anybody been paying attention at previous meetings? Hedy Lamarr, yes. Now, we could do one of these children's tests, which of these things is not like the others, which of these things does not belong? And of course that's a trick question, because it depends what question you ask. You could identify them as extrovert or introvert, certainly a risk taker. Richard Branson loves his personal brand, as we heard yesterday. His brand is, flying to the moon or outer space, jumping out of a plane or whatever. He conveys this idea of an entrepreneur as a risk taker. But could it be an inventor? As I said, Thomas Edison has more than 1,000 patents, or even Hedy Lamarr. And the actual question you need to ask about this is, who is the most important person in this group to the mobile industry as we see it today? And you've already answered that question. It's Hedy Lamarr. So, and why is that? Well, because she saw an issue, and that is the ability for the Germans to track Allied communications, and applied well-known concept, that is frequency hopping, to communications, and that has led us to where we are today. So, as you can see, you can have preconceived ideas of who of these types of people might be entrepreneurs, and you could take a whole group and you'd come to different solutions. But one thing I did want to point out is that, for example, with Richard Branson, he has himself raised the issue of his family and his upbringing, and in particular the role of his mother. And as a mother myself, of course, I want to stress that the role of the mother is particularly important. And you'll notice here, this is a quote from Eve Branson's recent book, where she answers the question that everybody asks her: how did Richard become like this? What did you do? What did you feed him to make him so crazy that he's doing all these things? And she said that her husband and she felt strongly that from an early age, children should be full of initiative, enterprise, and self-reliance. And in fact, both she and Richard tell this story of when he was 6 years old. You may have heard this one. That he was being a naughty boy in the back of the car, as usual, bashing his sister or whatever. She stopped the car and set him out and said, "Find your own way home." Now, this was in rural England. It wasn't in the city. Nowadays, she'd probably end up in jail and the children would be taken away from her. But in those days, she did that. 4 hours later, she was sitting there wondering whether she should ring the police or what she should do. And she got a call from the neighbour and said, "I have a little boy here called Richard Branson. He says he belongs to you. Should I bring him over?" All right? And so that's one anecdote. But he actually tells that as the start of his entrepreneurial behaviour. That is, he survived that traumatic experience, and he discovered self-reliance and the way his mother behaved with him. And you may know that he has learning difficulties and dyslexia. But she kept pushing him and encouraging him, and he realized that he could do anything he put his mind to. But now I want to talk about how entrepreneurs behave in business, because again, in the media you might think, oh, well, they take any sort of risk, they don't care, they'll lose money, they'll go bankrupt. My experience with dealing with entrepreneurs and observing how they behave is that one of the key issues that they need to do is identify their unfair advantage. What element, what technology, what characteristic, what set of skills do they have that sets them apart? And therefore, what does this enable them to do better than others in this marketplace? I think, again, you can see that in Richard Branson. He developed a business model, a new type of business model, customer focused, and he's applied this business model again and again. And others have different, might be technology advantage, such as Steve Jobs, can develop technologies and apply them, or use other people's ideas and apply them. So that's one very important thing to remember, that you must identify your unfair advantage in that market. But an idea is one thing. You need, therefore, then to develop a solid business plan. Again, entrepreneurs don't take unnecessary risks. They research, understand their customers, they understand the market, and they do their best to mitigate the risks, because nobody really wants to go bankrupt. When I speak to some entrepreneurs and they say, they get very annoyed when people say to them, oh, you're just going to take my money and squander it and lose it. No, because it's your money that you've invested with me. And so, in summary, some of our preconceived ideas or views we might get in the media of what it is to be an entrepreneur might not actually relate to reality. So on the basis of those thoughts, why does the mobile industry need entrepreneurs? And again, these type of entrepreneurs, does the mobile industry want people who are more risk takers, more innovators, more inventors, or do they want people to look at the current market in a different way and to find their unfair advantage? And I'd say because, as Kathy just told us, and many speakers already have said, the mobile sector is facing an unprecedented new environment where every area of the economy is going on the mobile platform. So the mobile sector has to be able to identify this unfair advantage and leverage their current customer relationships as part of this new mobile lifestyle and social connectivity. And then we can take advantage of the opportunities, some of which we've seen this morning, to grow mobile businesses in health, education, retail, and other sorts of services like government services. So with those thoughts, I will turn it back to Siki so that we can have a discussion on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicky. All right, our speakers during this panel discussion are Kat Keeley, who's an innovation, communication, and engagement strategist. She's a leading expert in multi-platform brand engagement strategies and open in innovation. I was about to say invitation. Open innovation. Kat, please join us on stage. Please join us on stage. Sonpreet Bhatia is co-founder and COO of My City Way, and they produce self-learning, highly personalized and intelligent mobile 2.0 marketing platforms across all connected devices. She has extensive experience in technology architecture, in new media, and leading teams that develop large-scale real-time systems. Please welcome Sonpreet to the stage. And last but not least, and don't kill me, Kakul, it's Kakul Srivastava, CEO and co-founder of Tomfoolery, and they are a mobile-first startup dedicated to building amazing apps for work. And over her 15-year career, she's helped to develop and build some of the most loved consumer products ever, Adobe's Photoshop line of products, Flickr, Yahoo Messenger, Yahoo Mail. Please join us on stage, Kakul. Nice, and I'm going to just get straight into it. What I want to know is, I keep hearing, we need entrepreneurs, and we know why we need entrepreneurs, right? We've got a huge unemployment problem. Where I come from, something like 75% of young people in South Africa are unemployed. And we're told unemployable, and I always wonder about that. What does unemployable mean? But let's talk about this mindset, and maybe let's start with you, Kat. What is an entrepreneurial mindset?
I guess an entrepreneurial mindset to me is somebody who can, well, exactly as you said, somebody who can see an opportunity and rather than thinking about all the doubts will go, I can make that happen. I can find some way of connecting the right dots to be able to make that happen.
Okay. And Sanpreet, you would agree?
Yeah, I have a little story to tell behind this.
Of course.
So we created this mobile application that won multiple awards in the NYC Big Apps inaugural competition. This was in 2009. And as part of the award, we met Mayor Bloomberg. And over dinner, he told me that, you need to create value at all levels. And it kept pondering me of what he really meant. And when I went back and saw other entrepreneurs or thought about them, like Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, I thought they are indeed creating value at all levels, whether it's for the society, whether it's creating jobs, whether it's technology advancement, whether it's creating value for the stakeholders, public or private, whether it's creating jobs in the market, whatever it is. They're creating a lot of value at all levels. And I said to myself that the key element of an entrepreneur has to be creating value at all levels. It has to all come together. And everything else that Vicky, you said was very nice, that all those factors are a means to actually get to that value, creating that value at all levels. So that kind of stuck with me, and he told me, I was a VP, a vice president with Merrill Lynch at that time on Wall Street, and he said, why are you consuming jobs? Create jobs.
Yeah.
It was actually a recession period. The market was not doing great, and I took the risk, started my own company, and as he promised, he actually invested in the company as well. The city of New York did. So really what stuck to me was, for an entrepreneur, if that goes or that sticks with the entrepreneur, I need to create value at every single level for everybody. And I have to bring the society or the world or the country to the next level by creating value. I think everything else just falls
and that's
in place.
And that's interesting, because as you say, you were working in an organization and then you took the plunge and went to start your own thing. Sort of similar to you, I'd say. And I just always wonder, what's the difference in the way you feel as an individual, going from being an employee, the rest of us, to being an owner and a boss? Is there a mindset shift that happens?
Absolutely. When I was a senior executive at Yahoo, I needed to know all the answers. I was the boss. I had lots of people reporting to me. I always had to have a strategy and a vision and a plan. As an entrepreneur, I sort of live in a world where there are many great unknowns. And I almost revel in how much I learn every single day. Despite having a much smaller team and, honestly, a much smaller business than I managed at Yahoo, I am on a much steeper learning curve, and in that way I feel years younger and much more powerful and a person of much greater potential than I did as an executive.
So back to the chicken-egg situation. Born or made?
Well, there's probably an element of all those things involved. But the thing that encourages me by reading stories such as Richard Branson's and also Thomas Edison, who similarly, he only had 3 months of formal education because the school couldn't deal with him. These days they'd probably put him on Ritalin or do something and put him in a corner. But so his mother took him out, and his mother said, I don't care what society or the school system thinks of you. I see potential in you. And she fostered this potential. She homeschooled him. And he said that forever after he felt a debt of gratitude And his whole life was dedicated to paying back her faith in him. And to me, apart from, as I said, the fact of being mothers aren't we wonderful, but it is that you can encourage entrepreneurship and you can encourage confidence and innovation in somebody by showing that you believe in them. And this takes us back to yesterday's discussion that unfortunately, as many people pointed out, those sort of elements are not the sort of things that women do naturally. For whatever reason, society or the culture or the workplace discourages us from being confident in our own abilities. So I think from our point of view and from this event, perhaps the message is, well, encourage each other and be confident in your own abilities. Anne's story this morning,
Yes.
Even Anne at her level, she immediately thought, oh, I must have made a big mistake, but she realised that actually she was right and the company was wrong. So I think encourage confidence and self-reliance.
So that goes to the question around men and women and how we approach our careers. Are men, do you think, from your experiences, and I'll start with you, Katz, are they more likely to do what we were saying, take the plunge, than we are?
I don't know about we, because I can only talk about me, really. I think it's more acceptable in a way for men to be entrepreneurs in the world. But I think, as you said, I think that the reason that I've managed to do so many silly, apparently risky, innovative projects in my life is because I surround myself with people who support me and who I support. And I have a mentor, in fact I have a whole bunch of mentors who I spend time with. Some of which are men, some of which are women. I actually have a couple of sort of regular meetings called Digital Divas and Media Mixers and Wordsmithettes. I go out of my way to make sure I surround myself with powerful women who make me feel better about what I'm doing. And I think that's what supports me, and that's what allows me to take the plunge.
Yeah. Sambri?
So this was in 2010 Worldwide Developer Conference, Apple Conference, and there were 1% of women. Out of 10,000 people, 1% women. And you can imagine that indeed it's very different for men and women, the way they approach technology, new media. So I think that at every level, whether it's education, whether it's opportunities, I think women need to be encouraged to be more and more in that tech and new media space.
There's this myth, there's a startup myth of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And you ask 10 people in a room to close their eyes and imagine an entrepreneur, and they will imagine someone who looks like Mark Zuckerberg, someone who's young, who's white, and who's male. And that's just not the reality, nor does it need to be. When I was thinking about my idea for what we wanted to do with Tomfoolery Incorporated, I approached a man who was a mentor, and I said, this is something I'm thinking about. He's like, you have to do it, Kaku, you have to do it right now. And I was like, I can't do it right now. I have a 5-year-old son who's just about to start kindergarten. I have to go to art duty and stuff like that. Because in my mind, I didn't look like that white 20-year-old male. And he's like, you're going to work hard no matter where you are. And this way, at least, you get to call the shots. And I was like, that's kind of nice. I can kind of get used to that. And I think that example, to me, indicates a little bit about how we all need to challenge our own idea about what an entrepreneur looks like. And it actually looks a lot like the person in the mirror.
And Vicky, on your slide, there was only one woman.
I know. But that was deliberate, obviously.
Yeah,
that was the trick. Because you were supposed to fall into my trap.
Oh, yes.
And say a Hollywood star that can't possibly be the only person of value to the mobile sector.
And that's interesting because it goes to some of what's being said here. We are going to do an entrepreneurial thing, a risk-taking thing. And instead of giving you a chance at this point to ask questions, we're going to ask you some questions. So I'm going to start with you, Katz. I know you've got a couple of questions for the audience.
Where's the mic?
There's one this side, and I'm sure there's one that side.
To see.
Okay, I'd just like to hear from you, really, what you think are going to be the factors that are going to disrupt the mobile industry over the next 3 to 5 years, and start listening to you talking rather than us talking at you, because there's some great minds in this room, so we all ought to be talking to each other. Come on.
Anyone want to take a stab? There's one there.
It's very hard to see, isn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, it is.
It's very strange here, actually. There's spotlights pointing straight into, you can't see a thing out there.
We've got one.
Hi, I'm Mala. I think one of the biggest factors will definitely be the market penetration in emerging markets, sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. So making the technology that's affordable as a percentage of cost of living and disposable income in these countries.
And do you think that the telco industries are actually preparing themselves for that in the right way?
I do. I think one of the main factors, though, is just you have Moore's law in Western countries when it comes to the evolution of technology. And right now, you just don't have that kind of technology that has that penetration in emerging markets because people can't afford to buy the hardware that supports it. So once we have a better idea of how to do that, I think it's going to change the game tremendously.
Cool.
There's one here.
Maybe just from a completely different area, I was thinking of nanotechnology, so everything gets smaller and smaller. So if you've got your mobile device then implanted in your ear and your tongue, things like that, or in your little jacket and stuff like that, I think that will radically change the game. It's not maybe in the same time frame that we're looking for, but I think things get smaller and smaller, so completely different. The second thing is I haven't completely figured that one out yet, but it's 3D printing. So if you can imagine what that could do to any kind of industry, you just say print and you've got your cup sitting with you now then, Siki, in a couple of seconds. So something like that, and what you can do with it, I haven't put my head around it, but I think it will be a game changer.
And there's going to be a whole...
freaky.
But enormous.
Yeah, but can you imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you grab the microphone? Sorry, if you don't have it, they can't hear you.
There was a program on NPR yesterday, and they were talking about exactly the same thing at the print conference. They were showing how they can take a picture, and a three-dimensional picture, and build a statue out of the picture that was taken.
I know a guy that's actually just set up a business, talk about Entrepreneurial, where he's scanning trains with a big scanner and then modeling those exactly and selling them to people who want them. 3D printing. You can scan anything now and print it in whatever scale you want, which is fascinating.
That's right. Sanpreet, any question for?
Just to follow on, how many of you have heard the term Internet of Things? Connected cars, connected devices. How many of you use your mobile device more than 3 hours a day? 4 hours? 5 hours? 6 hours? It's pretty much an organ. It's pretty much an organ at this point, right? So think about the always addressable customer, which you are and I am, always connected, right? So where do you think the connected era is going? What's going to happen? To you as a consumer, to you as the data that you're producing and consuming, the information that you're consuming and producing. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts on that?
Anyone? Just wait for the microphone, but she's going to start with at the back and then we'll come to you.
Well, I think we're already moving in that direction, especially with regard to mobile payments. And I think that's where I'm seeing it in a few years, that's going to really change. Like, you're pretty much doing everything you want to do using your mobile phone. Just like the way we use our credit card right now, that's kind of where I'm seeing mobile phones going, which is kind of dangerous as well, but...
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Okay, there's one here. Was there something this side? No.
Yes.
If you could just put your hand up for her so she knows where you are.
I'm not totally sure I understood your question, but if the question was where is the data going, to the consumer or to the producer, was that the question?
Well, I was just saying that with the term Internet of Things that is so popular these days, what do you think that is? Where are we going? What's the next step of connected devices, connected TV, connected?
No, I think what is possible now is having access to data, and that's where it's mostly the producer or the companies that have access to all that data is really analytics. It's knowing how to use that data to drive the system, to drive the business, to drive our social lives. And it's happening already for most of the users. They don't know, they don't think about the fact that what's marketed to them, it's not a pure coincidence. It's based on their behavior on the internet or their mobile phone. What I think it's not happening yet enough is the power of being the user, that you can actually create spaces where everybody is going to have access to the information, or you can create your own information platforms which you'll be able to use. And there were a couple of examples here what you can do to repair your pipes, but this is already being used in developing countries as a telemedicine project. But what people still don't realize the value of the tool is actually having a real-time access to information, to data.
Mm-hmm.
And what people don't know is how do you mine that information, and how can you use it as an individual, for any business, for any sector, for education, for marketing, for whatever. And that's where the entrepreneurship, I think, it's going to be totally transformational.
Okay. There's one here. And then, can I move this side for a bit to the black chairs?
The lady with the red jacket.
Yes, we'll come. Oh, let's start with you, and then I'll.
Okay, I will start. I think I can just judge on my own. So my early adaptation is always given because I'm from the industry, so therefore I'm always interested in what's possible. But I'm always impressed how fast we are willing to adopt what's possible today. Because when I think about the first successes in the mobile industry was by accident, because it was a text message which was just a rubbish product, yeah? And we all were just not really convinced that this is usable, because I mean, imagine 160 digits, something like that. Who needs that? And it was really one of the most or the biggest successes overall. And just 3 years ago, I was convinced I don't need a tablet, because I have a desktop and a laptop and my smartphone. I don't need a tablet. Today, I can't live without it. I even check the weather app before I look out of the window. My entire house is already connected, and I just realized that my husband or myself, we are pushing our iPhone instead of just switching the light in the old-fashioned way. And sometimes it's strange, but nevertheless, I mean, that's the future. And this is maybe for us new, but look around how big the potential is, because I'm doing so, maybe you are doing so, because we all are in this industry, but there are so many people out there who are still a potential customer for our industry to really connect everything, yeah? I'm not talking about the toaster also, but really lights, heating systems, shades at the windows, whatsoever, and it's easy, it's super comfortable. It's even an important thing regarding your safety, because I love to be able to switch off on my lights when I'm staying longer out and it's already dark, and I just want to raise the impression there is somebody in the house, therefore the light is going on, or shades are going up or down or whatsoever. So this is still a huge potential which is based on already existing products. It's not only the innovation which is still out there.
And I'm a potential customer. I need that thing.
I don't want to stifle innovation at all, but regulations can't possibly keep up with innovation, nor do we want it to. Yeah. But I wanted to get your sense, perhaps an ethical code might be something that could keep people on a ethical track. And I'm wondering if the industry has given any thought to an innovator's ethical code.
Vicky?
When you say an ethical code, I think you have to relate it specifically to issues like data security and privacy, and there's a lot of work that's gone on in that area, because of course, we talk about big data and the Internet of Things, but of course the other side of the coin is personal privacy and data security. So that's going to be a continuing issue. I think talking about a code in general is probably too ambitious and perhaps not focused enough. So I see where issues come up in relation to consumer codes, and I know Annalisa and I have worked at the OECD industry group, and their OECD countries in particular are taking a lead in addressing privacy and data security. And there's a privacy commissioners group from every country in the world, led by the Canadian Privacy Commissioner, actually, that addresses these type of consumer concerns. So that's a roundabout way of saying, yes, we are moving in the right direction, and I think it's a business imperative. It's not just a nice to have, because as we know as consumers, if we don't feel safe in the cloud or we don't feel safe with our data, we're not going to use a service. So, and the industry is very well aware of that and is working cooperatively to address those concerns.
There were more this side. Yeah?
So,
yeah, I'll come. I just need to. There's one right at the back, and then I'll come to you. It's
so
going to be fair to the black
just
space.
to answer directly the question about what is it doing, the internet connected everything, and I think it really is breaking down boundaries, breaking down cultural boundaries, economic boundaries, and it's making a global economy and a global culture, in a sense, and I think it's unforeseen exactly all the things that are going to happen from that. But just to also add to what was said about adoption. So if everything's connected and things are moving, I think, faster, I think adoption is going to move faster. So everybody always says, time goes so fast and everything moves fast. Well, just wait, because I think having everything connected the way it is going to make things move very fast. Even faster.
All right. Get the microphone to the back. You've got one. Yes.
Thank you. I think what I want to add to the adoption question is the seamless connectivity. We do have, for instance, million apps for million apps. There's a lot of choices in the marketplace. However, choosing the right one is very difficult. And in the future, I would hope that we go away from having so many apps for different things and bringing everything together in a platform so you do not have to open separate apps for doing things. I think that is a major leap in terms of making things simple. So less is more in that sense, and that would help adoption.
In some civic technology as well as in some entertainment-related experiences, and one of the things that I'm excited about is how we're changing the way that people can participate both in a real-time and in a more dispersed way. So we're already seeing people being able to participate in government processes and civic engagement, not having to show up at a meeting, right? But being able to register their engagement. So if you're a single mom, you can do that from home, right? As opposed to showing up. And then I think in entertainment, we're seeing people moving away from consuming a product in a passive way to participating in a story in a way that's woven throughout their daily life, and that seems much more fun to me. So I'd love to hear if you guys have any particularly interesting examples of either civic or entertainment applications of mobile that you're excited about.
All right, Kaku, let me actually start.
One of, not exactly mobile, but it's certainly about big data and the Internet of Things. In San Francisco, they have started to put up these sort of strange, monolithic pillars across the city that measure how many bikes have gone by that particular spot. And you sort of see the green bar going up and down based on the traffic over the day, over the year, etc. And it's an incredibly powerful way to, measure the life of the city, passively to do that, but also to incite change, because the more people are aware how many bikes go by. Bikes are much smaller than cars. You don't notice them as much. But as you become aware of this meter, you're like, wow, we do need these, bike lanes. We do need increased safety for bicycles. So it's just a small example of how the city is leveraging innovative technologies, big data, the Internet of Things, to make a very practical difference in everyday life.
Sunbreeze?
Yeah, I think it plays a really major role, especially in safety. If you're talk about urbanization, more and more people moving into cities, we see that there's not enough planning, there's not enough infrastructure, but with technology, right, with this whole connected behavior that we're seeing, can we actually reach out and make it more optimal? Can we, how can we, for example, with predictive technology, how can we, the hurricane that we had, right? Could we have done things better if we were all connected, right? If, could the messaging have been better? Can we avoid traffic at a certain area because, you know, there's so much information and data and connectedness out there? Yes, there's so much that we can do, especially with safety. And I think there's a huge opportunity for governments to step up and deep dive into this opportunity. For example, well, New York City is my favorite place, and where Bloomberg is, I'm a big fan. But during the hurricane time, I did not know if I had to evacuate or not. That's scary, right? I could have been in my house and with no means and whatever. So that's the opportunity that it brings. I think it's pretty huge, and it's yet to come, but it will come.
Just going back to the ethics, I was just been thinking about the ethics question and the opportunities. That the project that I'm working on at the moment is all about how you can, A, understand human behaviors, because now we're all carrying around sensors. We're generating terabytes of data on a daily basis. By interrogating that data in the right way, you can understand behaviors in a way we've never been able to before. I'm looking at everything I do at the moment, have done for the last couple of years, through the lens of behavioral psychology and behavioral research. That means if you can understand human behavior in a way that you never have before, then we can start to deliver campaigns that deliver the right messages in the right way at the right time to be able to really change behaviors. So nudge technologies, I think, are an enormous opportunity and could be the solution to many of our problems, which is why I'm working on the project I'm working on. On the other side of that, if you're looking at the ethics and the possibilities of how that could be used, I think there needs to be a really open, transparent conversation about data, about who owns the data, about how it's used. People need to understand all of the opportunities and the benefits, but they also really need to understand that they need to take ownership of that, of the technology, of understanding how these nudge technologies are being used.
In the wrong hands, it could be abused completely.
Oh yeah, and who's to say that, what's the right hands?
Yeah.
It's handing it over to people, right?
Oh. Vicky?
Well, I suppose I'd like to focus on the areas of growth that I see in the future, which is what I call the female part of the economy. All right, so technology in the past has been perhaps in engineering or science or the areas that where traditionally females haven't been. And as we've heard, it's very, very difficult to attract more women to STEM subjects for whatever reason. And there are a lot of programs around the world in different countries, including in Australia where I'm from, trying to rectify that. And one of the answers is a more modular approach, I think, to the teaching of STEM subjects and to ICT. For example, I know that in Stanford, they have had a great success and increase about 10% of the number of female graduates from ICT subjects because they have a mix and match approach. So if women are already interested in health, or education or retail areas or marketing, then they can take that and match it with an appropriate set of ICT subjects or STEM subjects, and then get that mix of technology. So enough technology so that they can apply it or understand how to apply it in their chosen field, but not overwhelming, so that they don't want to become an engineer. And I think in a year ago in Brussels, I used the analogy of a Formula One driver and a Formula One mechanic. Right? Not every woman wants to become a mechanic, but you can become a Formula One driver. You know enough about what happens under the engine so that you know what the capacity is, etc., etc. I won't take that too far, but you know what I mean. So I think we're focusing too much on trying to make women into mechanics, and they may not want to be mechanics. They may just want to be really fast drivers, really competent drivers. And so I'd like to see more of this modular approach. So where women are already thinking of going into health or education, a suitable job for a woman, as they say, then they can match that with technology. Because frankly, if women don't understand the technology, as we've heard today. They will not be able to participate in management in these areas if they don't understand big data analytics, how they use that to understand their customer, how to market, how to do all these things. They will be left behind. So it's an imperative not just from the mobile industry, but from women's career choices in the future. So that's my goal anyway, to get people thinking about this sort of more modular education aimed at women.
Got time for one more question. Hand there. No, we actually need you to be on the microphone.
Okay. Pulling together from a couple different strands of the conversation, as far as like breaking boundaries and connectivity, giving everyone access to information over the last 10 years that never happened before that. But one of the concerns I see kind of for the next decade goes back to the data and usage, and not even necessarily from a bad ethics perspective, but I see this segmentation. So along with digital divide, I was wondering what your thoughts are on the whole, you know, like there's Fox and MSNBC, and the people who watch only one or the other have very different realities, but you can choose to split the channel. But as you start searching and as you start shopping, people are suddenly on your phone and on your devices. You don't even realize that you have customized information, that your CNN feed is completely different than the person sitting next to you on the bus. And on a global level, but even on a national level, how we're starting to be so segmented in our perspectives, and you literally have to go to an internet cafe and use a computer or a device there to even see what the generic news is. You can't use anything of your own. And so what do you see? Do you see that as an issue, and do you see solutions to that as people learn how to use data better and it gets more and more segmented in our perspectives of the world?
Goodness, I'd hate that. Oh.
Segmented based on your choices, how you show up and use something, and then suddenly you don't, without you realizing it consciously, and even walking down the street with NFC now, so even the ads you get, you see different stores than the person walking next to you. And if all of your recommendations on Yelp are only from your friends, you're literally in this insular, very small society when you think you're going online and finding out everything.
Yeah, wow. Anyone want to pick up?
I'd be happy to address it. I mean, at least address it from one perspective. I find, having been at the forefront of consumer tech for a long time, I think consumers will always outpace marketers to some extent in understanding their segments. The victory of YouTube over normal broadcast television is that people wanted choice. They wanted to be able to choose what they watched. And yes, there are tons of tracking technologies, and you've got the stream of stuff on the side where things are being fed to you, but it's your choice what you put in that URL bar. And looking closely at how young people today make their decisions about which software to use, which social tools to use, etc., they are far more savvy than I think our marketers will be for a while.
Yeah, I was just going to say the answer to that is personalization. So that's something that we do at My City Way, and we actually have a patent pending technology. We have 6 patent pending at the moment. But one of them is news personalization, for example, right? And just to your point that why is something happening in Boston relevant to me at this time, right? So that's the thing, the behavior, the supercomputers that we're carrying with us at all times have your location, your intent, the timing of the day, situational awareness, right? Putting all this together, the more and more it learns from your behavior, it can customize to your needs. It's that little window of opportunity that actually even big brands or marketers have to connect with their consumers, because there's that little window of opportunity, right? So that's what the more and more behavior you learn from the usage, the more you can personalize, or I can cater information to you. And that's something that we are working on at My City Way.
All right, really out of time, but I'm going to get 2 final words from you, so Katz.
I think that, I mean, all of this is about education, isn't it? And I've curated some pretty enormous events over my life, and one of the biggest problems I've had is trying to persuade women that they're experts and to get up on stage and talk about their stories. I mean, I've always been proactively, it's 50% women, whatever I do, therefore we should always make sure we bring 50% women's stories in. But quite often I've gone to people and they've said, no, you should talk to a colleague because he's more of an expert than I am. And I'll go, what does that mean? And whatever that's happening, and whatever young women are not seeing figureheads who are proud to stand up and tell their story, they will always feel that technology is not for them.
Yeah.
And unless they feel that technology is for them, then they will not become empowered, and then they will be left behind. All of this stuff about personalization, people mostly don't even notice that's happening. So that's all about education. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you get people to actually start to care enough about technology and understand how powerful it is to everybody's lives to actually want to learn and be empowered?
Well, I suppose the final message that I'd like people to take away from this is, firstly, that, as I said, you can be made into an entrepreneur. You can be made into someone who has confidence, self-confidence and self-reliance. And that I think it's an important function of this group to support each other in that. And I know the other Vicky has spoken about the LinkedIn page. I mean, we really need to use the technology to link us all, because I'm from... So are you, from the other side of the world.
From the southern hemisphere.
Yes, exactly. So we need to use technology, and we need to connect everybody that we know into these networks so that we can support each other and spread the word. And that as each of these events goes, we, as you said before, we're refining and defining what we actually need to do, because one thing we need to do is, out of this, as we understand more what the issues are, is to develop them into actions.
Yeah, and encourage others to participate in what you were saying. I struggle as well just to get women to come and be interviewed on my radio and TV shows. They say that. Oh no, my colleague is better at it. That's nonsense.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And we're in the final stretch, ladies and gentlemen. We're in our final keynote, and we're going to probably pick up on some of the policy issues that came out there, because we're looking at the social impact of policy innovation in the mobile sector. And our first speaker is Kathleen Ham, who is Vice President for Federal Regulatory Affairs at T-Mobile USA. She oversees the company's work before the FCC and other governmental bodies. Please welcome Kathleen to the stage.
Hello. Is my mic on? Can you hear me now? I think that's somebody else's slogan. Well, good day, and thank you to the GSMA for the opportunity to share some thoughts with you today on working in the wireless arena as a woman. And I think there are a lot of women in this audience. I don't see many men, so that's... I've been part of the wireless industry for more than 2 decades in the U.S., almost actually since the very beginning. I started my career in government, which actually was a great place for a woman to start a career. I worked at the Federal Communications Commission, and I worked there at the very start of the regulatory environment for wireless. So it was really before there was even a regulatory framework for wireless. And I was involved in crafting the rules for that. I also was involved in the very first spectrum auctions in the United States. I actually was the head of that program, and that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun making money. And I can tell you at that time it was really hard to find. I had a lot of people come through my doors with those spectrum auctions, and most of them were men. It was really hard to find a lot of women high up making key policy decisions in business in those days. So I think, it really does boggle my mind, though, because I think we've come a long way since then. And on employment, we still have a long way to go, especially with regard to women in the upper echelons of our industry. But we've made good progress. Today at T-Mobile, almost half of our employees are women. For the first time, we have an acting chairwoman at the FCC Minion Clyburn, who's doing a great job. And even on Capitol Hill, we have key women in policy positions there, like Anna Eshoo, who's the ranking Democrat on the House Energy and Commerce Committee, who's making very important decisions for our industry. But lots of policy changes have to be made to get more women into the right positions. T-Mobile has established a women's leadership network whose goal it is to develop and advance the careers of women inside the company and build a reputation as a great place for women to work. This means attracting more women at the management level like me, but also hiring and promoting for roles traditionally held by men, such as engineering and IT. T-Mobile currently is developing an updated diversity sourcing plan that is specifically focused on attracting women and others with diverse backgrounds, including specific efforts to source science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM candidates at all career levels. Policy changes have to be made also in the immigration area. In the United States, there needs to be some changes made to permanently fix the H-1B visa and EB green card programs. The United States has a long and proud history of welcoming the world's best and brightest to its shores. Highly educated foreign professionals have made and will continue to make great contributions to the U.S. economy. America faces an immediate and long-term crisis with the shortage of qualified workers in STEM fields as the number of available science, technology, engineering, and mathematics jobs far outpace our ability to fill them. At the same time, U.S. high-tech employers make substantial contributions to promote education in America and support technical education and training for American workers. The fact is that U.S. colleges and universities are among the best in the world, educating and training thousands of top minds from throughout the world every year. It is counterproductive to educate and train the world's greatest minds and then send them elsewhere to compete against us. Innovative startup companies founded by foreign-born entrepreneurs have helped put America on the leading edge of world technology and innovation. These companies provide quality jobs and opportunities for Americans and are critical to our nation's economic recovery. And here, too, there is much room for improvement and making women part of that process. T-Mobile is making efforts to ensure it's a friendly place for customers with diverse backgrounds as well. T-Mobile has chosen not to follow the staid path laid by other U.S. carriers, and instead we've rebranded ourselves the Un-carrier. We've done a series of aggressive moves in the marketplace to address consumer frustration with the cost and complexity of wireless service contracts. For example, we've set forth the Simple Choice Plan, which eliminates restrictive annual contracts in order to reduce confusion for wireless consumers. We've established Jump, Just Upgrade Your Phone, My Phone, which enables customers to upgrade their phones when they want, not when they're told. Since an average of 1 in 3 consumers who apply for wireless service do not have strong enough credit to qualify for the best wireless rates, T-Mobile has unveiled a program enabling families to get 4 phone lines with unlimited talk, text, and web, and up to 500 megabytes of high-speed data for only $100 per month, with no credit check or annual service contract required. And just 2 days ago, here in New York City, we announced we're taking our revolution global by announcing that most of our Simple Choice customers will automatically get unlimited data and texting in more than 100 countries around the globe at no extra charge. And let me add that our 4G LTE network is now nationwide, 200 million people in 233 metro areas, at faster speeds than our competitors. It's an exciting time for T-Mobile. The wireless industry is an enormous job creator by itself, but there are lots of opportunities for women in related fields, including app developers, app stores, device manufacturers, infrastructure deployment, public safety, and consumer advocates. Each of these fields needs support for their financial, corporate, marketing, legal, technology, and government affairs needs. I head up federal regulatory for T-Mobile Government Affairs. and I have regular contact with my counterparts in other carriers and in the vendor and tech community at large. And the government has long been ahead of us in recognizing the value of women in the workforce. The wireless industry should be a natural fit for women employees because of the opportunities wireless technology has created for women in the U.S. And it's starting to bring women across the globe. And the GSM Association has some great studies that they've done. One in 2010, for example, that they did that shows that there are 300 million fewer female than male wireless subscribers in the world, with the largest gap being in South Asia. At the same time, the study said that women business owners perceive the phone as an essential productivity tool, and all women feel safer and more independent when they have mobile connectivity. In another study in 2013, GSMA, together with Visa, found that women in developing countries are often the household financial managers, and that those women represent a vast untapped market for mobile financial services. And in May of this year, GSMA, with USAID, released a study showing that 80% of the women in Afghanistan now have regular or occasional access to a mobile phone. These women use their phones to access commercial and social services, including those related to health and education. This is a pretty amazing statistic, given the fact that they only had mobile phones beginning in 2002. As of September 2012, according to the Afghan government, there were 20 million mobile subscriptions among a population of 30 million people. And even though women say they cannot either afford mobile phones or get permission from, they cannot often afford mobile phones or get permission from male family members to use them, they are finding ways to use this service. All these studies show that women are clearly the wireless customers of tomorrow. All women in the U.S. have an opportunity through careers in this increasingly global wireless industry to be part of the economic and societal revolution. So how do we move things along for women in wireless? Well, I think there's some things each of us can do. First, support each other. We're doing that here. As we women climb the ladder, let's create the opportunities, the recognition, and the mentoring for women who will come from behind us and follow in our footsteps. Next, network with your companies and organizations and with those in this room and beyond. We have to make sure that we're in the know, extending ourselves to expand our circle and look for the next thing as a professional. I love the fact that this conference is called the Connected Women, because I kind of feel like the connected women should take advantage of the disconnected men. That's how I'm sort of thinking of this. But, and finally, don't be afraid to nudge things along. You've all seen the bumper sticker, "Well-behaved women rarely make history." Don't be afraid to speak your mind, offer a constructive thought, or when necessary, push things along. Be honest, not modest. We all have it within ourselves to make some history. Thank you, and thanks to the GSMA for holding this conference and having this great opportunity to connect. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today.
And our final speaker for the day is Annelise Tiblemont, who is Senior Director for Global Technology Policy and Industrial Relations in the Government Affairs Department at Qualcomm. That's a very long title. She is responsible internationally for policy and regulatory affairs related to new technology and market access strategies. Please welcome Annelise.
Good afternoon, everybody. Still good morning. We're reaching the end of the morning, and I have the chance, and maybe not, to finish the long morning before our lunch. So I hope to bring some perspective into this topic. which I believe is crucial to our industry, our world, our economy, and our society. As a little background, I've been working at Qualcomm Government Affairs for over 12 years now. I don't have a legal or political background. I have an engineering background, and actually studied in fundamental physics, so quite far from where I am today. And as a little segue, I would say that it's been an asset along those years in Qualcomm to have such technical background. So since early age, I've been surrounding in a male environment, and I didn't see it as an impediment to my career or my experience. Actually, it's been an asset to, especially in a tech company, to be able to interact with different business units, mostly engineering, in Qualcomm. So let's move on the topic. So mobile has become central to people's lives. It is today the largest technology platform in history. Over the next 5 years, smartphone shipments are expected to surpass the 7 billion mark, which is roughly the world population today. The growth of mobile is unprecedented, and so is the impact. It is transforming societies, the way people learn and interact with one another and with information and data, as we heard. It is truly driving a global shift toward a knowledge economy. Also, the mobile industry is also at an important turn. The adoption of mobile by consumer is growing, and the data traffic is exploding, doubling each year during the last few years. The industry is now preparing for an outstanding and disruptive 1000x increase in data traffic. Qualcomm is committed to address this challenge through its path-breaking technology innovation, but also, and most importantly, to work with its partner, industry partner, and government stakeholder around the world to bring to market the necessary technology and policy innovative advances. A combination of resources in the form of small cell deployment, more spectrum allocation and harmonization, as well as radically different ways deploying, operating, and managing these resources. Equally important is the need to innovate in services, along with the right policy setting to foster it. We are working also with our partner to improve the user experience. First, by ensuring bandwidth efficient mobile internet, apps, web, and video, and the likes, to continue drive adoption while managing network capacity. And second, by introducing new ways for people to be connected via innovative business models. Some of you may be familiar with the model we call sponsored connectivity, which has been first introduced by Kindle and Amazon. But also other models like payment per transaction. We see actually today a lot of those models introduced in emerging markets, and we'll see more and more of those being introduced. And we'll talk about it a little bit. Now, I would like to point out as well that there is another key dimension of the telecom and mobile industry in terms of its societal and economic impact, and something that we just actually talked about earlier in the previous panel, but also across the world. So we heard Internet of Things, but the way I would talk about it and to reflect the topic of today is how technology and mobile have impact in new different vertical and in the public sector. Especially as our society today is hungry to find new economic growth drivers while renewing consumer trust and improving quality of life. So, mobile is finding its ways more and more in the public sector, whether education, health, public safety, and many others. Maybe still at its infancy, but also facing major policy hurdle today. Just to mention one that is on the policy agenda of every European policy stakeholder, I want to talk about public safety and in Europe called the 112 accuracy emergency call, which in the US is 911. It doesn't sound like groundbreaking, but it actually brings a series of stakeholders together, specifically national authorities. And in Europe, the legislation has been enacted in 2009, but there's still work to do in terms of consumer awareness, as well as combining the fragmentation on the authority side. So in one sentence to explain, this example reflects how mobile technology, along with accuracy location technology, can actually bring change to everybody's life in terms of safety, but require collaboration. We are committed today to work with those new stakeholders that a variety of mobile services and technology can benefit governments and citizens in the area of education, healthcare, but also intelligent and safe transport and smart energy. While the landscape may sound fragmented, there is a crucial need at this stage for public-private partnership, for dialogue, capacity building among policy and industry stakeholders from all different sectors. Which brings me to talk about how government can embrace and unlock some of those entry barriers. In particular, I would like to discuss some of the policy principles that can help regulators and governments, industry and consumers around the world together and ensure that mobile internet can continue to grow and have a positive impact on our economy, including employment, sustainable investment, quality of life, and finally, on our future generation and leaders of our society. So first, partnership and dialogue. There is really, and we heard it across those 2 days, a strong need for capacity building and international cooperation. As technology changes very rapidly, leading sometimes to disruptive changes to the economics and the market forces, as well as people's life. Plus, the mobile internet is truly global. Hence, international cooperation will be essential to assess the pros and the cons of any national or regional legislation. And to a certain extent, dialogue between various stakeholders do exist today. And Vicky mentioned the OECD, but that's not the only one. But it's still very ad hoc and reactive as opposed to more forward-thinking, although hopefully it will be changing. Government and regulators need to keep up with those changes. The Internet mobile platform is a powerful growth opportunity, but without the right level of knowledge and understanding of the implication, including to the society, it would also potentially create problems. In particular, the approach today still follows a high-handed, commanding, authoritative toward market forces, with often a regulation that is excessive and pervasive. We can just see, actually, for some of you may be familiar, the fierce reaction recently in Europe of investors, industry stakeholders, mobile telecom operators, and many others to the proposal of the European Commission related to a single telecom market, likely to bring greater uncertainty and slow down investment, the opposite of the original objective of the Commission. The wheel of decreasing consumer costs at all price sounds great for the consumer, but what are the economic impacts on the industry, on employment, on innovation and investment? Going back to capacity building, as an example, there is an absolute need for a wide adoption of impact assessment analysis or measurement when new policies are being enacted and adopted to measure positive versus negative economic and social effects and determine what is the best course afterwards, whether legislation or leave to the market forces to solve. One area which requires close attention from policymakers is that ensuring access and affordability to all, not by imposing on the market price structure, but more by establishing the right policy context to build the roads of the future. Mobile networks are like bridges, roads, electric grids. They are vital. This is a huge area of engagement for policymakers and something of great priority today. And it is the responsibility of the country and the state to ensure they can continue to be built, maintained, and provide quality service to consumers at an affordable price. And to that end, spectrum being the lifeblood of the mobile industry, a sound spectrum policy and market-based licensing environment is key and a true growth driver to our economy today. Finally, I would like to spend a few last words to mention a few examples in some countries that are truly moving the implementation of mobile government programs, whether in the sector of finance, health, education, public safety. And actually, we've seen many of those initiatives in some of the emerging markets, which, by the way, are now becoming the fastest growing economies. And to mention a few, Saudi Arabia and Turkey have dedicated significant resources and public money to education and technology. Saudi Arabia has a mobile penetration of over 160%. It is the third smartphone country in the world, right after Korea and UAE. They have a population of 50% below the age of 30. And the Ministry of Education has committed significant investment, 20 billion just for 2013, for the K-12 education program. Investment to move the young population toward a knowledge economy, and in particular focusing on STEMs, information technology, mobile, science, social network, data, and so forth, but also on innovation and young entrepreneurship. Closer to Europe, the Turkey government has planned to bring technology in the form of smart board, connected tablet into the classroom to 1 million of teachers and administration and about 17 million students. The project was designed by engineers along with consultation with industry stakeholders and a close cooperation with the different ministries, in particular education and transport. Those are truly great examples of collaboration and policy innovation, and maybe example to learn from. So to conclude, there is a huge opportunity ahead of us and for the whole mobile ecosystem. Operators, manufacturers, developers, publishers, and perhaps, more importantly, government, and the local and professional communities of teachers, doctors, public safety officers, and so on. There is a need for more public-private partnership, international dialogue, especially in the area of capacity building. And our mission as market stakeholders is to continue innovate and work with policymakers to implement legislation that encourage investment and innovation, to expand digital connectivity to all, anywhere and anytime. The future of our economy depends on it. Just a last more personal word and to link back to some of the reasons we're here today. I have participated last year in a program for young talent at the Women in Leadership in Europe initiative. It was a great experience, and I'm fairly new to this setting. And I believe that more of those programs that brings networking skills across different continents has been extremely useful, and which there will be more in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Annelise, for that. Now, welcome to the stage Vicky Slight, who is Senior Director for Membership at the GSMA and also the driving force behind Connected Women. Right, so Yesterday, in the opening address, Michael said, this is not your day job, right?
Right.
So what drives you to do this?
Well, why not? I'm really passionate about the subject, and I think, as we've heard over the last couple of days as well, if we don't change the future, then it's not going to change. And I think because of GSMA, I have the platform, if I can help to provide that platform so that we can do this. And just looking around the room over the last 2 days, it's all worth it. The buzz around the event has been fantastic, as has the caliber of the speakers. And I think mobile networks and services are transforming the digital economy and society, and this industry can become the employer of choice for the next generation. So if I can help to create, if GSMA can help to create that awareness and actually get that action going, then that's what gets me out of bed in the morning to be able to do this.
And this is probably an unfair question, but I'm a journalist, so I'm going to ask it and I can get away with it. But not just the people who sat up here or stood there, but the contributions that we've had from our audience and the delegates here at the conference, really high level. So what stuck out for you? That's the unfair bit of it.
Oh gosh, Suki, where to start? But one of the things that I have to say is the energy that has gone on in this room in the last 2 days is just amazing. I've been so jet lagged, I've hardly had any sleep, and that's just kept me going. I mean, it's fantastic, and all the speakers that we've heard from as well. The fact that we've had Lucy on stage yesterday, who was 20 years old last week, and Debbie, Tina, and Isabel, actually coming on stage and saying, well, we met 20 minutes ago, we're already talking about how we do business, I think is fantastic. And then we couldn't get them off the stage because they were continuing on their conversation. So I think that's fantastic. And also, the men that are here, I don't think that's brave. I think that's them being ahead of their game. And in fact, Tim from EG1 ran past me this morning and said, I've met so many fantastic women, I've run out of business cards and I'm writing on the back of business cards. And I just think that that's fantastic. Learning about the millennials, actually having Lucy there talking about that, and then having that validated with the research that Anne Charlotte talked about yesterday, I think is absolutely key. So yeah, I mean, I could go on.
No, and I'm not going to let you. Talking about Lucy, I mean, I facilitate lots of conferences around the world. Never have I seen a fresh 20-year-old open a conference. Why did you feel that was important?
Well, never have I. And I think that's the point. And I don't know about everybody here, but I go to a lot of these conferences and meetings, and we always talk about youth. And I think it's important that they have a voice. And I know Lucy was really nervous yesterday about doing the first keynote, but she was absolutely fantastic. And I think back in the days, we used to say, children should be seen and not heard. And now we're looking to them for inspiration. And it was, with Lucy, hopefully everybody learned. It was great to hear, from her voice yesterday, all about creating, getting the next generation into mobile. And when she came off stage yesterday, she said to me, did I do you proud? And I felt like a proud mother. And I said to her, no, you did everybody here proud, Lucy. So well done. You were fantastic yesterday.
I'm the champion of unfair questions. Here's another one. We haven't even wrapped this one up. Where are we going next year? What are we doing?
That I don't know, but what I would like to say, I think, we have to look at this. Each and every person in this room has to look at what to take away from this on a personal level and back to your organisations. So we had some fantastic workshops. And, so go away, build your own personal brand. If you haven't got a mentor, go and get one. Heck, I've got two. And we heard from Marie Hattar yesterday from Cisco, talking about, get an advocate. She got a job offer through having advocates. I've already emailed my friends at home and said, can you be my advocate? I'll be following up when I get home on that one. And I think, understand the millennials. We're talking about the digital skills gap that's coming up. They are different. They do. I mean, I have young people in my team, and their expectations are completely different, and their environment requirements are different. So I think we have to understand that. In terms of Connected Women, obviously we want to take that to the next level. The next meeting that we're having will be during Mobile World Congress in Barcelona on February the 25th, which is the Tuesday. So if you are planning on being in Barcelona for that, then I invite you all to come to that update meeting. And I think we need to get a lot more partnerships. There's so much great work going on that I definitely think that is the next step.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Siki.
And I'm going to leave Vicky to make her closing remarks. It's been fantastic spending the past 2 days with you.
I think I am now standing between everybody and lunch and drinks, but there's a couple of thank yous that I want to do. First and foremost, Siki Mgabadeli, thank you so much. And I think putting on this event takes a lot of work from a lot of people. So I do want to thank the team that's behind this, and I know Michael did that already when we started. But thank you to Shafiq, to Greg, to Jackie, and the production team, to Rasheen, to Hillary, and also of course to Vicky and GTWN, and of course all the fantastic speakers that we have. A huge thank you to everybody for doing that. And just before, Cheryl Miller asked me to talk, just let you know very briefly, on the 14th of November in Brussels, there is a Women in Leadership event, which will have a big emphasis on women in ICT mobile. So I'll put that on the GSMA Connected Women LinkedIn and also the GSMA Connected Women website. A lot of you have asked me how you stay in touch with everybody. I advise you all to join the LinkedIn site that we have so that we can all stay in touch. And one of the other things that we've been doing is we've been collecting resources. So there must be so many case studies, just within this room alone. So if you send them through to us, we'll put them as resources so that we can share and collaborate. So just before I close, I would like to say thank you to everybody. To the audience. We've had people come in from Taiwan, Africa, Australia, the UK, of course. So I just want to say thank you. And if you wouldn't mind standing up, Pank is with Project People, and he sponsored the lunch that we're about to have upstairs. So hopefully that covers everything off. And once again, thank you very much. I hope you've all enjoyed this event as much as I have. And thank you to Anne Bouvereau and GSMA. Thank you. Lunch is served.